I don't know whether it comes from some kind of discomfort. Are they, like, when it comes to talking about money, okay? Do you think people are uncomfortable talking about money, talking about finances? Where do you think this discomfort comes from, or this uncomfortable nature come from?
He'll look at your brain and your heart. What that means is that he will look at your attitude towards money. Is your heart focused on God, or is your heart focused on the love for money?
And they've hired somebody called as a home manager.
Yes, I saw that. 1 lakh per month.
1 lakh per month. Yes, I think it's a misconception, that if I give tithes, God is going to repay me financially.
Put me to the test. Test me in this. Give me the money and test me if I will not open the floodgates of heaven. So this is a sample budget that is already created. Yeah. Now, how do we budget? The first step, the first thing you need to do is, like we said,
if you have an early start to life, they call it it's a wonder of the world.
The eighth wonder of the world.
Because
Hey guys, welcome to UC Talks. Today we're going to talk about something very interesting. Either you like it or you hate it. Yes, we're going to talk about money. And to talk about this, we have two very interesting guests. One is Brendon Mascarenhas. He is the founder of Mascarenhas Wealth and one of Goa's most qualified financial professionals. He is a triple designated mutual fund distributor holding the prestigious CFA, CFP and CWM certifications, making him the only person in Goa to have earned all three. With deep expertise, Brendon is committed to helping individuals and families building lasting financial security. And the other guest is Gavin D'souza. He is a founding partner at Meridian Wealth. Located in Goa, they have been into mutual fund and insurance distribution for over a decade. Gavin is an executive MBA from GIM and has been for 17 years in the area of finance. Please welcome Brendon Mascarenhas and Gavin D'souza. Guys, you have no idea how I'm excited I am to have this podcast with you, this discussion about finance. Now, finance is something that is either can be very controversial or something that people really love to talk about. So I'm really excited to talk about this particular topic about money. Okay, now money. If you know, there are some people who worship money, who think that money is the end goal, and there are others who think that money is bad. We shouldn't talk about it, think about it like it's evil, so I want us to really talk about these extremes and see whether we can meet somewhere in the between, and see whether we can talk about this controversial topic and yet come out of it thinking that, oh man, maybe there's more to it than what I was thinking. Okay, so really excited for you guys to come here and just, since you guys are expert, I have no idea about this topic. I'm not really good at finance. I really want us to learn a lot from you guys. So thank you for saying yes, and really excited to have you here.
Thank you, Basil. It's our pleasure to be here.
Yes, I'm so glad to be with the legendary Basil. I think it's one off the bucket list to be on Unapologetic Catholic. And looking forward, because many people say that they try to learn finance through experience, but learning finance through burning your hands is the worst decision you can do. So very happy that you all are taking this initiative.
Yeah.
Cheers to you all.
Yeah, thank you. So I just want to start off with the first question. There are a lot of people probably having, and this is very close to probably the Christian theology, that in Christianity, finance is spoken about not something that we own. Okay, that God is given us money to not to own it, but to be stewards of it. Can you explain to us, what does this line really mean? What does it mean to be a steward of money and not owning the money? Can you explain that, Brendon, probably? Gavin?
So a steward is basically somebody to whom a responsibility is assigned. So let's take the example of an aeroplane. So you have a flight attendant. That person is also a steward. They have been assigned the responsibility of serving the passengers, taking care of the safety of the passengers, the need of the passengers. The very same way, the Lord has appointed us as stewards of the money, which He Himself has created opportunities by which we have earned that money. And at one point of time, He will hold us accountable as to how we have used that money which has come from the various opportunities that he has provided us with.
Okay.
Yes, I second that. That's a beautiful example. I would also like to give one example. So, in my life, I was in Bangalore at one point, and I was working in Bangalore. And I used to have roommates, of course, who used to stay together. And I would go to work using a motorbike. So when I would go to work, I would go and meet my clients over there. But one fine day, I decided to move back to Goa. Now, I had an option, should I sell it or should I not? So I decided, why not sell it? I have many clients in Bangalore. So what I decided to do, I decided to give the bike to my roommates. I told them that it's my bike, but you can use it for this time being. But on one condition, when I come back to Bangalore to meet my clients, at that time, you cannot use the bike. You cannot use the bike, but I will get to use the bike, and it should be in a proper working condition.
Okay.
So that was it, they didn't own the bike. So what they did is that they became a steward of the bike. So they didn't own the bike, they didn't own the bike, but they could use the bike for whatever purpose they wanted. But whenever they used it, they had to have something at the back of their mind that one day when Brendon comes, I cannot use the bike, and I should use the bike in such a way that Brendon would be able to use the bike and meet his clients. So in the similar way, the money that we have is not ours, it is God's. In Psalm 24 verse 1, it says, everything in this world is actually God's. But for the time being, we have it with us. So whenever we use our money, we should use it in such a way that we should have God's intention in mind, just like how my roommates had my intention in mind. And what is God's intention? God's intention is to use that money for His greater glory and to spread His kingdom.
I think that's a brilliant answer. Both of you guys have given us a perspective of like what a steward really is, like by giving examples. I think for me, I had never heard these examples. For me, it was like a first time hearing, okay, what a steward really is. But this question a lot of people had, I don't know whether it comes from some kind of discomfort. Are they, like, when it comes to talking about money, okay? Do you think people are uncomfortable talking about money, talking about finances? Where do you think this discomfort comes from, or this uncomfortable nature come from?
So one thing, of course, it's a private matter, but one thing what I feel about money is that, in the Bible itself, it says money is the root of all evil. And because the root of all evil, we don't want to get close to that root, right? So I think that is something that, but it's not taken out of context. It's a love for money that is the root of all evil. Right. Another Bible verse that says that it is easier for a camel to pass through an eye of a needle than a rich man to enter into heaven. So I was always of the opinion that, I don't want to become too rich because...
Yeah, I had the same things. Like, I don't want to ever become rich.
Yes, because I thought, I was of the opinion that Jesus hates rich people after saying that verse. So I just wanted to, just bare minimum, I don't want to be too rich. I just want to enter heaven and pass through that needle.
So you don't want to cross the threshold. Like,
yes.
I want to enter heaven.
Yes, so I think that is where people, they quote these... They misinterpret this, and they don't want to talk about money, because if you talk about money, which is evil, and you want to get rich, you may not enter heaven, and you don't want to be talking evil things.
Yeah, correct. Gavin, do you have a perspective on this? Do you think?
So yes, sometimes things are taken out of context, and people believe that, like how Brendon said, that you'll get stuck if you're too rich.
Yeah.
Or people have a misunderstanding that money is inherently bad.
Yeah.
People also don't want to talk about money because they feel they will be judged.
Yeah.
Are you donating enough? Are you giving enough of tithes?
Correct.
And hence people just don't want to address the subject. However, in life, I've understood the more you have, the more you can give.
I think that's a very good perspective. The more we can have, the more we can give to people. And I think the idea, I think what you guys are talking about, is not about just like how much can I have for myself, but it's like, okay, I need to look at this in a different perspective. But that the fact that this is God's money, and the more I have, the more I can give in the sense of charity, or like, any kind of work that we are doing that needs, everything that we do requires money, right? So we can't have the mindset where like, oh, like I want to be like poor, right? I don't think that's anyone's desire. I don't think poverty is desirable to anyone. But I want to just stick on to that one point you said about money being evil. So I was talking about how the two extremes. What are the dangers of believing either of these extremes? Like, okay, either saying like, money is evil, like it is the root of all evil. You're taking the verse out of context and saying that everything that's wrong in the world is about money and making the money as the bad person, as a bad entity over here. And the other extreme we're saying like, I must go as much, I must get as much as I can, you know, to secure myself and to make sure that like I'm okay, or like even if I have, I need more and I need more. What's the dangers of having these two extremes?
So from the first perspective, I would say money is morally neutral.
Okay.
The good or the bad path will be based on how you use it. If you decide to, you know, hoard wealth for yourself, again, you don't end up helping others. On the opposite perspective, if you say, no, you know, money is the root of evil and I'll take minimal opportunities to make it, you could suffer on, say, providing to your family, meeting your necessary monthly expenses. You will not have funds itself to do either the work of the Lord or to give it to the poor. So my perspective is, it's all depends on how you utilize the money. It can be used for good, it can be used for bad. How you use it is your choice.
Correct. I think what I can take from that is like anything, like say hammer can be used to build a house or to smash someone's head. Doesn't make hammer the bad person here, right? It's how we use it. At the end of the day, it's humans who are held accountable for this. Brendon, do you have any other perspective on this?
Yeah, so going back to the example of the bike, okay, so we are stewards of money, right? So going back to my roommate's example, let's say he went on one extreme and said, you know, this bike is evil, you know, I can meet an accident, I don't want to use this bike. If he doesn't use the bike, then he's not going to use it at all, and he says, I don't want to touch it, it's evil. Then finally, one day when I come down to Bangalore, of course, I'll use it, but I won't be able to start it, right, if the bike is not used for so long. So that is not keeping my intention in mind, right? He's not using it well. Let's look at the other extreme. Let's say he overuses the bike and he doesn't really keep my intentions in mind. When I come back to Bangalore, he is off with his friend to another state, you know. So he overuses the bike. Let's say he modifies the bike without asking me. You know, all these things are not according to my intentions. So he is supposed to always use the bike, but keeping my intention, my requirements at the back of his mind. So at both extremes, it's wrong. So what you need to do is you need to use money in such a way by keeping God's intentions in mind.
Absolutely.
And God's intention in mind is to use that money for His greater glory and to use that money prudently, you know, not at any of these extremes.
Correct. Where in the scripture, this is for anyone, but like where in the scripture from the philosophy of Christianity, where is it mentioned that how God will judge us based on how prudently we've used the money? Can you show us somewhere in the scripture that is written?
Yes, so in Luke 16 verse 11, I think if anyone is listening with a book and pen, I think you should write this verse down, because it says, if you are not faithful with unrighteous wealth, which means money, who will entrust you the true riches in heaven? So I think that's an amazing verse. What that means is that if you don't manage your money well, you will not get into heaven. So you will be judged based on how you use money. Right? So I think that is something very important. And that does not mean that God is going to ask you at the end of it, how much return did you get? Yeah. You know, did you get a 20x return? Did you get a 30? He's not going to ask you that. So what will He ask you? He will check your attitude. He'll look at your brain and your heart. What that means is that He will look at your attitude towards money. Is your heart focused on God, or is your heart focused on the love for money? Right? So, and the second thing, so He'll check your attitude and weighs your heart truly. And He'll also check your brain. Like, are you using your wisdom, your God-given wisdom? Are you using it to manage your money well? What that means is, are you being prudent with your finance? Are you doing your budgeting well? Are you doing the principles of finance, which we will talk hopefully very, very soon? Yeah. So God will judge you. So what that means is that God will judge you based on how you manage money. He will judge you based on your heart, your attitude, and also on your brain, how prudently you are spending.
Yeah, Gavin, do you have any perspective on this?
Going to Matthew 6:24, that also concurs, you know, with what we have just said in terms of, it says you cannot serve both God and money. Okay. So the perspective of the Bible is also very, very clear. So money is something which could be used to fulfill the purpose of the church, of the Lord on earth. But the minute you become a slave to money, it's from that point of time where everything goes downhill. So you need to make a very clear choice that the money is not going to control you. You will control the money, and you will use the control for the purposes of the Lord. You will follow the right steps. You will follow, like what Brendon said, you look at proper budgeting, you look at the best optimization possible. So when the Lord calls you, you're fully accountable and you know you have done the right thing.
I agree with what you say. And also, just to add another point, in Matthew 6:33, it says, seek first the kingdom of God and everything else will be added unto you. So if you really seek God, and everything else is everything else, the money and everything will be yours.
Yeah, I want to just follow up on that. In the Bible, it always God asks people of their first fruit. So money is one of the central themes of the Bible, because that's apparently one of the things that humans struggle with. So why does the Bible emphasize on giving our first fruit? So I think for us, it will be tithing to the church, or giving the money back to God. Why does the Bible emphasize on that, and what are the spiritual effects of us tithing or giving money back to God? And not just giving, just committing this every month to like give this much amount of money to the church or to God, or
So earlier in the Old Testament, they said first fruits. What that means is that supposing you have a harvest and your first fruit will be the most fresh fruit.
Right.
So, but if you give the last fruits, they may not be as fresh. So that means you need to give your first fresh fruit to God. But when it comes to money, the first rupee and the start of the month, the end of the month, the rupee is the same, right? Right. So it does. So
value
many
doesn't change.
Yes. So many people say that it doesn't apply to money. But what happens is it does apply to money in the sense, in a spiritual way, it shows where your priority is. Correct. So when your salary comes in, if you first give that money to God, and the second case, when your salary comes in, and at the end of the month, you give your salary to God, what would happen? In the first case, that money is out. In the second case, what if an unplanned expense comes, or you get tempted to buy something, or an emergency happens and you have to use that money? That money is not there at the end of the month. And what that means is, by giving money in the start of the month, it just shows God that, God, you are my first and only priority, linking back to Matthew 6:33. And what does that do to your soul? Coming back to your question, what I believe the soul is God, from God's infinite being. A small portion of God is in us, and that is our soul. And the only time when our soul is at rest is when it is coming closer to God. When the soul that we have comes closer to God is when we are truly at peace and we are at rest. And when we do this, when we give God our first priority, that is when we come closer to God, and that is when our soul truly finds its rest.
Right. The question really comes a lot, saying that, why does God even ask for our money? Like, does he need it? Does he not have enough money wherever he is in heaven? Why does the church or God need that money? How would you answer that question?
So basically, God, he has no need of money.
Yeah.
See, he's the infinite creator. He has created everything that was, is, and is to be. Why the concept comes of tithing, of giving, is it breaks that greed that a human being might have, that selfishness that a person might have. Because just like how we spoke about earlier, like the first fruits are given, you really do not know what's going to come in the rest of the harvest, but yet in faith, you're giving. When you give, you show that you're dependent. If, say, the rest of the harvest doesn't come, you're able to still offer up that anxiety. You're still able to offer up that dependence to the Lord and place the faith in His hands. While the Lord might not need our money, in order to promote the work of the Lord, the church does require money, because we have priests, we have churches to be taken care of, we have mission works that happen.
Yeah.
The church also does a lot of social work in terms of orphanages, outreaches, homes for the homeless, meals for those who don't have to eat. And for that, funds are required. So while the Lord may not require the money, His church on earth does. And that's where our role comes in. where we provide tithes, we provide alms, which helps in the growth of the church here on earth.
You know, yeah. I had a friend actually who asked me a similar thing. And when I told him that, the church requires money, what he told me is that I once gave it to a priest and the priest used it for his own purpose. So how do I know that my money is going towards the right cause,
That's absolutely sad. So
Yes. So how I explained it to him, I broke it down for him with an example, a simple example. Let's say there's a father with 2 sons and he owned a piece of land, an acre of land. And on that land, he grew mango trees. Okay. So that would be 40, and he would enjoy the mango. The whole family enjoyed those mangoes. Now, unfortunately, the father passed away. Now, the 2 sons, they didn't want to stay together. So one son, the older son, went to a different town and he carried on another business over there. Now, what would happen is, come summer, the younger son would send the mangoes to the older son, and this happened for a long time. But then what happened one day is that there was a property dispute. And once the property dispute happened, they landed up in court. And it landed up in court and everything went on. But that summer, the mangoes didn't reach the other brother. But what did that mean? What message did that mango send? Not the message not going. What did that send to the other brother? It sent out a message that I don't acknowledge you as the owner of this property anymore, because that is what is happening in court.
Correct.
So what does it mean? God owns everything, as Psalm 24 verse 1. He owns everything. He doesn't need our money. He's not going to become richer. Yeah. He is everything. Yeah. But while we give our money to God, we show God, we acknowledge that God, this is actually yours and I'm giving you what is actually yours. So it's not about God needing the money or becoming richer. It's about we needing God. And the second aspect about this, why we need to give the money, is that what it does to us. When we give money, when we give our money to God, we are sending out a clear decision, telling God that, God, this money is for you. And what that does to us, let's say we earned X amount, now we are X minus, say, some amount, right? So we are actually decreasing the money that we have. And what we are telling God by doing that is that, God, I may not be able to live an extravagant life. I may not even be able to survive for that month. But God, I give you this money, trusting that you will come through and I will be able to survive that month. So it's a matter of trust. So there are 2 things to summarize. The first thing is, by giving that money, you are acknowledging that I am a steward and this money is actually yours. And secondly, it's telling God that, God, without you, I would not even have this money and I completely and utterly depend on you for survival.
I think that really made a lot of sense, even for me, like just understanding how it's not about me giving God, where God is like, doesn't have anything. God is limitless, right? He has unlimited resources. I think it's what you guys are saying is about us, about our heart. God wants us to prune our hearts. It's like our greed, the way we look at money. I think God sees that and says, you know what, give it to me, and sees our heart. And that, I think that's what prunes our heart.
Since you spoke about heart, Basil. So basically, what happens? The Lord, all He wants is our heart.
Correct.
And general tendency as human beings is our heart follows the money. Yeah. So if our money is going to the right places, our heart will also be in the right places. And that's all the Lord wants. He wants our heart.
Yeah. He knows where our heart is.
He knows where our heart is.
Yeah, correct. Can you explain to us, like, what does detachment and what's the difference between detachment and carelessness when it comes to money? Is there any difference over there, where someone is careless about money and someone is literally being detached to money?
So when you look at the difference between these two, if you look at detachment is where basically, the money doesn't own you.
Okay.
You're able to decide. We were talking about earlier. Yeah. You're able to take very, very clear decisions. You're able to choose wisely when it comes to detachment. Yeah. When it's carelessness, it's something like you just don't care. For example, you have money, it's just lying in your savings account. Yeah. You just don't care. That money could have yielded you a higher return in a better instrument. Correct. Maybe you don't require that additional money, but there is somebody who is in need of that money, who you can donate it to. But because you're so careless that you're like, why will I go to the net banking, transfer it to this, transfer it to that? You're very careless. You're lazy. You're laid back. That's where carelessness comes in place. Detachment is, you will see the money, you will invest it in a good instrument, and as you just see the money growing, you won't feel, oh, I'm getting rich, because you're detached. You know that this money is for this particular purpose.
Yeah.
But carelessness is like where by your own accord, you're so lazy that you're not even bothered about what you have by yourself.
There is one YouTuber who talks about how he has no idea how much money he's absolutely rich, okay? He's filthy rich. So he talks about how he doesn't know how much money he has in the account. Whenever he has to buy, and he has to ask his accountant, like, can I buy that? Do I have the money? I think that is carelessness, right? Like, you have so much money, you have no idea how to use that money. You're just because you're rich, and you're just like letting it be and allowing your accountant to manage all of that. Do you think that's a good way to go? Like, is that carelessness according to you?
No, there has to be an element of responsibility also.
Correct.
If you're earning this kind of money, you should have some kind of, a weekly review, bi-weekly review. If you're very busy, a monthly review. So you have to be on top of your cash flows. If you don't know, it could somebody could cheat you out of that money.
Yeah, I was thinking of that, like, wouldn't it be easier for that accountant to just like tell you, you have X amount of money and have no idea how much that person has just taken the money?
There have been incidences like this, where managers of actors, singers, and these kind have just swept the rug from under them because they've had no idea.
Yeah.
So sometimes you cannot be that careless.
Yeah.
That
so oblivious and so naive about money.
Absolutely, right? Because you're still a steward, right? At the end of the day, you have earned that money because of certain efforts of yours. It's certain talents that the Lord has given you. You need to have some kind of accountability.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think virtues like prudence, fortitude, justice, temperance have do they have these virtues have a role to play with regards to how you handle money?
So coming back to the verse that I told you to write down, Luke 16 verse 11, the way we handle money is the same way God will judge us, and God wants us to use our money in the right way. Now, if we use our money virtuously, that is using it in the right way. If you use it in a vice, using it to do vices, then that's the wrong way. So the virtues that we're talking about is, patience, temperance. So what does that look like in an example? Patience and temperance, if you're doing the opposite, that means you'll just see something and just buy it off, You would be an impulsive buyer. You would not do anything to manage your money. You'll just spend it and you don't know where it's gone. But a patient person will make a budget. He will do things in the right way. So that is where you're using the virtues to manage your money of patience and temperance. And that way you are fulfilling Luke 16:11. Also, if you look at justice, if you're the owner of a business and if you pay your staff in the right way, according to the work that they've done, justice, that is the right thing. But if you cheat someone else, if you cheat someone else, then you are cheating someone and you're getting that money, but that is not virtuous, right? So by cheating someone, what you are doing is you are not managing your money well. Right. You're not using the right virtues. And the way you manage your money, if you manage your money well, God will give you true riches in heaven. But if you don't use the virtues, but instead use the opposite, then you will not inherit true riches in heaven.
Right. Do you have any points about women who are at home? Okay, mostly like homemakers, or like if they're working, or even if they're not working, how, like Proverbs 31 talks about the role of women, right? And so can you explain about like how can she manage her home finances with regards to how much she spends, and whether she's working or not working? How, like, do you have any pointers on that for women in the audience?
So very often, what happens, the work a woman does at home as a homemaker is quite unrecognized. It's not given its true value.
Yeah.
Just last week I was reading one very interesting article. There is of a couple. They're working in a corporate and they don't have time for the various duties that would otherwise be there at home. Correct. And they've hired somebody called as a home manager.
Yes, I saw that. 1 lakh per month.
1 lakh per month. Yes. So can you believe it?
What?
1 lakh a month. I mean, that's the kind of value of what they have assigned to the work.
Okay.
And that person, just like how a homemaker would do, take care of the kids, pick them from school, look after any utility that might break down, call in the maintenance. So, I mean, this article is quite an eye-opener, right? It shows you what is the value of a work that a woman does at home.
Yeah.
And that's something which runs the family, and that's something which puts hot meals also on the table. It's just not the finance part, it's this part also.
Yeah.
Like there was a person, and he used to say, like, he used to tell his wife, like, I'm working the whole day and what are you doing?
What are you doing? Yeah.
And one day he came home and there were toys all over the place, and the sink was overrunning with dishes, and everything was smelling, and the dog had pooped in the hall.
Oh no.
And there was everything just thrown everywhere. And so he asked his wife, what happened? So she said, every day you ask me and you say that I don't do anything. So today I actually didn't do anything. Yeah, so that's the thing. And this Proverbs 31 woman is a woman who has so much of talent. She has all the virtues. And that's what something,
Yes.
whether it's my wife,
yes.
whether it's my mother, whether it's in so many women who I know, who I see this. Sometimes I look at myself, I look at my siblings, and Proverbs 31 says, like, the children will rise and they will call her blessed. And that's what something I see in the way my mother has brought me up, in the way my wife is bringing up our children. And yes, I think Brendon,
Yes,
you can
yes.
also.
So even in my case, my wife is not working, but she is doing so much more. She is a Proverbs 31 woman. By the world standards, she is not doing anything.
Yeah.
But by the biblical standards, I'd like to quote since you brought up Proverbs 31, I'd like to quote some of the verses. One is, she looks well to the ways of the household. What does that mean? That means she's looking at the household and she's budgeting. She's planning grocery shopping, all of that stuff. That is finance. That is very important. And she's doing that. The second one is, she stretches out a hand to the poor. What does that mean? Is that she's generous, doing a tithe, doing a charity. She's doing all of that. The next thing is, she's not afraid of the snow. What does that mean? We are in Goa, there's no snow over here. But what does that actually mean? Is that in case of any emergency, she's taking care of the family financially. What does that mean? It's not that she's going to start working, but she has kept certain things in place, like an emergency fund or a health insurance in case of a medical emergency. She has made things in place so that the family is safe. And lastly, it says that with her hand, she plants a vineyard. A vineyard takes 3 to 5 years minimum to grow, right? So what does that mean in terms of finance? She will invest, supposing there's a requirement of the house in the long term. What she will do is she'll plant the vineyard now itself. She will make an investment, maybe in a long-term investment, so that investment will grow just like how the vineyard will grow. And the whole family will benefit from the fruits of that investment. So what I'm trying to say is that even though she's not working, by doing these things, she is actually financially active. And what the husband is doing, let's say the husband gives her the house, she buys the house. But by doing these things, she makes that same house a home.
I think that is such a profound thing that you both have said. There's a temptation for us as men, say that, oh, like, we are doing so much. What is my wife doing at home? Like, and then we come to, as you said an example, like an exploded house, and you realize, oh, like, I mean, personally, I had that thing in my mind, like, like what is my wife really doing? And then I stayed one day without my wife. I realized, oh man, the amount of work that you have to do, the mental gymnastics that you have to do with managing the kids, managing the food, just the whole managing. I would understand why this couple would hire someone, pay 1 lakh rupees to manage the house, because I think home management is something that people we take it very granted. Like, it's like, oh, like, what's there to manage at home? And like, if you have managed a business, you know how difficult it is. At least managing a business, you have adults to manage. You have kids who will not listen to you. So half of your battle is just to putting everything together in the house and to making sure that your mental state also is in the right state, right? So
Just like, Basil, how in a corporate you'd plan targets, the same way a woman is planning for her kids, their schedules, their exam, their school. Just the way you assign roles and responsibilities, that's what she's doing. Just the way you strategize with a team and do team management. I mean, for people with more than one kid, again, that's what you're doing. And you have a creative role. You're like a creative director. You need to continuously keep them engaged. And like some clients who keep complaining, the kids are also constantly complaining. So if you look at it, a woman is doing so many roles that if she goes for a corporate job, she can fit into, whether it's the HR, it's the marketing, she can fit into any of those roles.
yeah. And she does all of this with care, by the way.
All of this with care.
Which does not come naturally to us as men, right? To do it with care.
That's correct.
And especially regarding children, right? I think women can show usually more care than men. I mean, I'm talking out of experience, okay? So I know that it comes very naturally for women to manage all these things and yet care for, their kids. I want to move on to the next section where we can look at this. But we've spoken about, okay, the spiritual aspect, about what God is calling us to be a steward. I want to pivot to how can I practically look at this teaching, okay, look at this, what the church talks about, what God wants us to do, and how can we actually physically do this and make sure that we are budgeting well. So for our viewers, if you're viewing this, there's a link to the budget sample in the description below. You can download. It's a Google sheet. So you can download it and follow along when we're doing it. We're going to start doing it in a while. Before we start budgeting, I want to just pick your brain on, like, what should a couple think about, or anyone for that matter, to think about when it comes to what should be the mindset be when we are doing budgeting as a Catholic, as a Christian, or as anyone who is thinking about budgeting.
See, budgeting is spiritual, right? Especially in Luke 16:11. Again, it reminds us that money is a test for eternal life. So the first thing is that why are we even doing this entire exercise? Is it to make more money so that we get more money and become richer? No, that is not the goal of doing this entire exercise. The goal of this entire exercise is your heart, right? Is your heart set on God? Is your heart set on giving Him His due? And is your heart set on really prioritizing Him? So that is the first thing. The second thing is your first fruits, what we spoke about, right? Yeah. That should be another attitude. So when you're doing your budgeting, you should also look at your tithe, your money to God, and you should ensure that it is your first fruit out of your harvest. And the last thing, the third point which I can talk about, is that when you're doing your budgeting, first look at your needs and then wants. We'll come to that a little later. But that is a priority that we follow. And that's the order that every Catholic should follow when they are planning their budget.
Right. Can you tell me the difference between, you spoke about needs and wants. Can you tell me the difference between what should a need be and what should a want be? Because sometimes people interchange that and say, oh, I need this. That's like, correct. When it's actually like a want. So can you give me some examples of what a need and a want looks like?
Let's illustrate it, say, with a very simple story.
Okay.
So there is this person, and they're doing budgeting. They budget for their rent. They budget for some medicinal expenses. They budget for their home loan EMI. Very importantly, they budget also for their tithes. Now, the first set of items are items which they need, right? You need to pay your EMI. You need to buy your food. These are essential items. And then while the person is going further, they say, okay, I'm also going to go to Starbucks and I need to upgrade this mobile phone of mine. Or I need to buy this bag, even though, I have bags. My mobile phone is perfectly functioning. So that's something which is a want. So a need is something you can't do without.
Correct.
A want is something which is optional.
Yes, I agree with that. Keep it very simple. what do we need? We need food, clothing, shelter, right? And so that is a basic need. But what is a want? A want is to take it further, to make life a little more comfortable, to make the food a little more tastier. So a simple example is, let's look at the need of hunger, So if you're hungry, you have two options. One is you can go buy the vegetables, you can cut up the vegetables, boil it, do all of that and eat a very nutritious meal. So that's a need. The second option, just open your phone and Swiggy something, right? So that is a want. So need is something that fulfills these basic requirements of food, of clothing and shelter. And a want is something that makes things a little more comfortable to upgrade yourself.
What if, so you talk about clothing, what if I have, what if my need is, I need clothing and I have like a 10,000 rupee t-shirt to buy? Do you think that becomes a need?
So what do you need your t-shirt for? To cover yourself, right?
Yeah.
So that is the basic need. But a want is something to make it more comfortable, to upgrade it.
Yeah. Again, I think prudence comes in play here.
Right.
Like, okay, you need a t-shirt. Does it need to be 10,000 rupees? Like, I'm exaggerating, okay? I don't think anyone makes t-shirts for guys at least, which is 10,000 rupees. I'm just like very bad at exaggerating. So, I'm sorry, I'm very good at exaggerating. In a practical way, can you tell me like monthly budget when we do, what percentage should we be considering dedicating to God? Some people say, like some families say that we cannot afford a tithe. Okay, that's something that they say, oh, I don't think I have enough money for the tithe. What do you think we can do? Where can we start? Like, small. Can we start small, or do we have to pay 10% or whatever the amount is?
So 10% is what is given in the Bible. Yeah. But that's a tithe, right? 1/10. But the church never says that you have to give 1/10 to the T, so to say. But what it means is that you have to give some portion to God, right? So a good way to start is, if possible, you can give 10%. Yeah. But what if you can't, right? What if you can't? What if you give only? What if someone is told you to give 10%, but you tell that person and you justify with them that, see, for now I cannot give. I'm just giving 2%. You can justify. You can do whatever you want. But what matters is your heart.
Correct.
That's right. Correct. So God will look at your heart. God won't look at all your excuses. So you need to give. You need to give what you can give, right? It doesn't matter that God gets 10% or 20% or 40% or 5%, because God has everything. God has 100%. Yeah. But coming back to our need for tithe, right? Yes. It is to show God that, God, I acknowledge that you are the owner, and God, without this, by giving you this, I will survive. So it is looking at your heart. Yeah. So a good way to start is giving 10%. But if you really can't afford, you have to give as much as possible. Yeah. And God will know whether that is as much as possible, because you don't have to justify with anyone. When I was working in Bangalore, I had a friend who was earning very less. He just moved to Bangalore and he just started off. So, but what he did, he gave his first fruit. When his salary came in, he gave his first fruit and he gave 10%. Okay, so that is what he did. But come the end of the month, almost the last week of the month, he actually didn't have money for his needs, But what he would do, he would be faithful with his tithe. He would buy biscuits, the Parle-G biscuits, which he sometimes give dogs. He would eat that, he would sacrifice that.
Yeah, that's quite a...
Yes, but what he did really by doing that, he did that and nothing happened, that's how he used to live. But today, he has risen up the ranks and he is a VP at one of the investment banks. So it is not that you start giving money so that you become a VP.
Yeah, I mean,
God looks at your heart.
Correct. Like, I think people should not take it as like an example. It's like, oh, if I keep giving my tithes, then one day I'll be a VP. I'll have to. I mean, at the end of the day, God looks at your heart, and of course, God will bless you. Blessings will follow. But it does not mean that I'm doing this. I think, again, coming back to the heart of why am I doing this? Am I doing this so that God will give me more money in the future? Exactly. And sometimes it seems like tithe becomes like, oh, God, I paid you 10%, no, just give me 110% back. Like, it's like investing. Yeah. I don't think it's investing, right?
No, it's not.
I think it's a misconception, that if I give tithes, God is going to repay me financially, because it's just not from the financial aspect that the Lord might or may not give you. Correct. It could also be from mental peace. Yeah. It could be from having a very loving family. Yeah. It could be from so many non-tangible things which are not directly related to finance. So I believe when you're honest in your tithing, the Lord repays you not just financially, but He can repay you through so many other means. Yeah. Being in business, when I started giving tithing, Yes, there were some incidences where I've seen, the Lord's hand, and I used to tell people, there are certain occasions where I used to give a check for a tithe and an outstanding payment of a similar amount would come. So I would say that the Lord, has made provisions. And there was times where that did happen, but then, the stress which I used to undergo of a client pending payment which was not coming, the Lord kind of helped me rest my thoughts. He helped me calm my heart. He helped me calm my mind. So while financially nothing happened, but mentally, emotionally, the Lord took care of me. And when He took care of me in those, I was also able to take care of the people who are with me. So it's not something like an investment, no? Like I'll put in this mutual fund, fixed deposit, and I'm going to get returns. No, it could extend to any sphere of your life. It's just about that growing in generosity, going back to stewardship again, being a good steward and growing slowly. And if somebody doesn't have something, a lot of people say, when I become rich, I will give. When I have a lot of money, I will donate to the poor. Right. I'd like to go to what Mother Teresa says. No, she said, if you can't feed 100 people, feed one person.
Yeah, I think, wow.
But coming back to the same thing of this person who gave, God looks at your heart. But there's one verse in the Bible from Malachi. It says, you give me, and it says, test me in this. In the Bible, if you see, God never says test me, He said never put the Lord to the test, it's
Absolutely.
and many places say never test the Lord, right? Yeah. But in this one verse, the only verse in the Bible where God says, put me to the test me in this, give me the money and test me if I will not open the floodgates of heaven.
Correct.
So imagine the amount of blessing that God has. So whenever you give your money, you can actually put this verse, you can give it and say this verse, but then again, you should not give this money because of the verse, right? Correct. God will definitely open the floodgates and give you the money, but He's also have one eye on your heart, right? If you are giving the money truly because this money is actually God's, then God will really open the floodgates and you will see immense blessing, just like how my friend received the blessing.
Yeah. Can you tell us if someone who has money that comes in is very inconsistent, your income is very irregular, how do you then calculate and see like how do I do a budget? How do you, do you have any
for someone who's salaried, it's so simple. The money comes in, you give your 10% first fruit. Yeah. But what if you're getting many fruits in various times? That's what we're trying to say. Yeah. So there are two cases. Case one is like, for example, me. I get money from various places, but till the 10th it comes, and then after that it stops. So it comes maybe on the 1st, 2nd till the 10th. Yeah. So it comes at where? So whenever the money comes, do I give? No. So what I do is, if you're receiving money in that kind of a way, what you do is you set a date after the money stops, for example, 15th. Or if you're getting money throughout the month, then keep maybe the 15th as a checkpoint where I'm going to check what money I've got for that month from the previous time to now. I look at my expense. For me, it's a business. So I look at my expenses, I look at my profit. And from that, I calculate 10% and I give it on the 15th itself. Okay. But let's say you are, case two, you receive, like you're working, you're a musician, right? And the season is on of Christmas and all the weddings. Yeah. And you receive a huge lump sum payment for all the work that you've done for the whole Christmas season. You receive a lump sum in February after the season is over, or March. Then what you do is, you do a similar thing if you want, you remove your expenses that you burn towards that. And then whatever you get, you pay that tithe at that time, 10% of that. And then you don't have to, many of us worry that, oh my God, what if I won't survive? But that again, you have to trust in the Lord. Correct. So if your monthly income is irregular, what kind of irregular? If it is throughout the month irregular, choose a date. And then calculate on that date. But if it is once a year or twice a year, then when it comes in, you pay the money out.
Okay. I have just a follow-up on that. There are some freelancers, at least I know with regards to like designers and video editors and all, some months they will get really good work and some months they will have no work, like probably like for a month or 2 or 3. So what do we do at that time? Should I compensate for the work that I've gotten? Like as you said, like lump sum, or should I divide it among the months? How do you think we should go about that?
As an alternate perspective, how do I do it? Again, similar to Brendon, I have business income. So what I do is that I look at when I file my income tax return, say for the first time I file my income tax return and just say my income is 100 rupees. And I know, okay, approximately I will have the same income the next year. So what I do is I divide that 100 rupees by 12, and every month I pay that same thing as a tithe.
Okay.
And then when I file my next year's income tax return, I look at the difference. I projected I would earn so much and I've earned this much. And that month itself, when I file my income tax return, I give my balance tithe that is due. So I work at, because sometimes it becomes a little bit difficult to reconcile the expenses and income, and then what was happening, like the date used to go forward, then I used to forget, and then I used to say, oh, the next month I'll give it, and it used to keep piling up. So then I started this. So after my first income tax return, I just divide, and if in case I've earned more in that year, I rationalize it and I give.
So now there'll be a temptation. Which approach, Brendon or Gavin? Which one is giving lower for tax? But what you need to do is God is going to look at your heart, right?
Absolutely.
You cannot do that.
And 10% is not a fixed amount. You can give more. And the Lord has blessed you. You should.
I think someone told me about this when we look at 10% or how much should we give. I think that a good example is the old lady, right, who in the scriptures, who gave everything, whatever she had. For me, my first thing is, should I be giving everything that I have? No, I think at the end of the day, what Jesus trying to say is that look at her heart. Like others gave a portion of that, which was correct. Like they were giving 10%. But the lady's heart was like, I want to give everything to God because this is all that I have. And I think the teaching is not that you should give everything, all your income. But at the end of the day, it's like, where is your heart when it comes to money?
Yes. It's not only about the heart, it's also about your brain. You have to be prudent. Correct. God doesn't want you, if your family is starving, God doesn't want you to take everything to God. So God is looking not at your heart, He's looking at your heart, of course, but also at how prudent you are. Because again, Luke 16, the way you manage your money, so God has everything. He wants to see your heart and He wants to see your brain also. Are you really taking care of your responsibilities? So take care of of course, you have to give, you have to manage your needs and wants, but it's a fine balance, that you have to maintain.
Yeah. I think we'll move to a point where we can actually do a budgeting. Maybe we can do it together. Okay, now that we have understood needs versus wants and the fact that we have to budget something. First of all, why do you think we need to budget is the first thing. Like, that's a question that's asked. Like, is it required to budget, do you think?
Absolutely, Basil. It's very important that we need to have a budget in place, because what happens, human tendency is that we do not tend to keep track of everything in our mind. Because today, with ease of modes of payment like your GPay and so much of access to quick commerce apps, it becomes very easy to lose focus, lose track. Hence, it is very important that we note down, just not budget in our mind, but we actually note it down, say on a spreadsheet. So what happens is that we are able to observe trends. We are able to keep within the allocations of the month. So say for example, you say, I'll go for a movie, and you note it down. So you know that, okay, I'm entitled to go for this one movie, and not when suddenly a new movie releases, you decide I'm going to go there and your budget goes off track. So it's very important that we need to note it down, just not budget, but we need to actually put it down either in writing or in a spreadsheet.
Okay. I agree with that actually. So what I try to do as a practice is so when I started earning money, I should try to write it down, make an Excel and all of that. But then technology is so advanced, right? So what I started doing, there are much better apps, but there's one app which I used, which I would make my expense heads, which we'll cover in a bit. And then what I would do is, as soon as I made a practice, so now it comes automatically, a habit. So as soon as I make an expense, let's say I go to a restaurant, or let's say I buy some groceries. Soon after, let's say I use Google Pay for that. Soon after I make the payment, and while Google Pay is happening, I go out of this app. I go to this app which I use. It's called Money Lover, if anyone wants to use. It's not sponsored. But what I do is I go to this app, and I let's say I spend 100 rupees. I put 100 rupees under groceries, and that's it. It takes just 2 seconds, to do that. And by the time the Google Pay is still happening. So when you make it a habit, then it automatically gets tracked. So after some time, once I made an expense, I felt something was missing, and then I realized, oh no, I forgot to add my expense. And then what we do is, once we get this data, this is not just for the sake of having data, right? Then at the end of the month, you can compare what is your budget and where you are at.
Absolutely.
And through that, you can, like Cody said, you can observe trends, and you can also see where you're going off budget, and then maybe for the next month, you can take a decision to be on budget, right? And but coming again, just one small thing is, this is the entire exercise is focused on God, not just to make more money.
Yeah. Okay. So just taking from that, let's just sit with our audience and actually try to look at a budget sheet and see whether they can follow us. So for y'all, there's a link in the description which you can click on the link and just go on file and download the budget file. And maybe as we are going through it, as they're taking us through it, you can budget with us. Yeah. So it'll be real for y'all, and you'll be able to like see where exactly your incomes and expenses are going to. So yeah, so let's do that. Brendon, can you take us?
Let's do that. So this is a sample budget that is already created. Yeah. Now, how do we budget? The first thing you need to do is, like we said, tithing, right? So tithe is comfort. First, you need to set aside your money to God. So this cell, right, is the first one where you fill. So when your money comes in, first fruit goes out, right? The second thing what you need to do is look at your needs, right? Which are your needs now? Let's look at the general, what is there? This is what we have. You can obviously edit it if you want, but this is what we are currently.
For me, groceries would be one need, right?
Yes. So groceries would be a need. Yeah. If you don't understand what is what, you can just hover over it and you get to see, right? Okay. And there's shopping and there's transport. So this would be a need. This would be a want, right? Restaurants. Shopping. What you're looking at is unnecessary shopping over here. But so it's a want.
Usually on a month you don't like shop a lot. So I would think this would be a want, right?
Yes. Then this would be like transport, daily commute and utilities.
Yeah.
Now holiday, how it works is, if you go for a holiday every month, then you can add it over here, like a weekend, not a weekend, a monthly getaway kind of a thing. But if that's not the case, maybe you take an annual trip, then that would be a goal, that will come later. Okay. Yeah. Entertainment is your subscriptions to all of that. And health and fitness would be your doctor, dentist, pharmacy, all of that. Personal care would be your toiletries, everything with the toilets, right? Your soap, your shaving cream, all of that. Gifts and donations would be a gift and donation, like the tithe. The tithe is kept separately. So gifts and donation would be any donation that you're making.
Okay.
Yeah, any gift. Yeah, any gift
like
that you.
Weddings and
yes, like a gift that you want to do. So this is more of like a want. Okay. But tithe. So now, if you look at gifts and donation as a whole, what we usually put gifts and donation together. Gifts and donation, that whole head is actually a want, right? But tithe, which is usually within gifts and donation, is a need.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is a little bit confusing, but I put it separately over here. Yeah. Then loans would be any loans that you have. Rent is if you're staying on rent.
Yeah. The loan EMI would be a need, right?
Yes.
That's correct.
Yes.
Based on if you have taken an EMI.
Yes, it's always a need. It's always a need. Nobody will.
Yeah.
Then the rent would be a need. Parental and children expenses would also be a need. What I put as a need, and other expenses, any other random stuff is a want. Okay. So if you look at this person, this is his total expenses. Right. If you look at the income, scroll a little up, it's 60,000, and that's why there's 6,000 over here, right? It's a simple 10%. Yeah. So this is the total expense that the person has, about 45,000. Yeah. So if you look at the breakup, need and want, there's about a 78 and a 21. So coming back, this is the needs that we looked at. And after that is the savings, So we looked at tithing first, then we looked at our needs. Third, we look at our savings, Savings, how much would this? This would be about a little more than 20% is what you're saving. And last is the wants. If you look at the wants, these are the wants. The restaurant would be a want, the shopping would be a want, the holiday would be a want, right? These are all the wants. So now if you look at the breakup of needs versus wants, it's 78-21.
Like an 80-20 rule.
Yes. So what we usually look at is, you need to also have some fun, right? Yeah. But what we do is we use a 80-20 as a thumb rule. Okay. So if you look at simple thumb rules, what we look at is at least 10% you should save. Okay. Yeah. And 80-20 should be the thumb rule. Now, a little caution over here with thumb rules. You don't have to take thumb rules very literally. Now, financial planning is not like a science. There's no magic formula. It depends on you. If you are, like, for example, let's take an example. Let's say there's a person who is staying on rent. Okay, he has dependents. He has a family of 3, and he has also his loans to pay. Mm-hmm. You cannot expect the person to save too much.
Correct.
Right. So for that person, even a 10% is great.
Okay.
But let's say there's someone who's living with his parents, no rent, no dependents, no loans. You cannot tell him, Baba, thumb rule is saying you need to save 10%. No, you should say
more than that.
Yes, you can save higher. So don't go by thumb rules to the T.
Yeah, correct.
Thumb rules are just a way of guidance, but we need to look at your circumstance. Even this 80-20 is also circumstantial, that is basically how it works. And last, we look at wants. So tithing needs savings and wants. Yeah, wants is something, like we said, it's to enhance your needs are there to make it better. That kind of a thing. So these are the 4 things that we look at.
Okay, so first you said giving. So your tithing,
Yes,
charity
yes.
comes first in the month. Then it comes saving, right?
Right.
So you save, or what comes next?
Needs.
Needs
Yes.
comes first. Okay. Then comes
Savings.
Then comes your savings.
and then comes
Last comes your wants.
Yes. And one thing is, if your saving, is too less, then what do? You look at your wants and kind of try to drop that. Suppose you're saving just 5%.
Okay, correct.
You're saving just 5%.
Needs the non-negotiable, right?
Yes,
Of course.
Yes. So if you want to increase your saving,
You
where
look
do
at your
you
wants.
look at your wants? So if you want to increase your savings to invest and all that, you can try to increase your salary, but your boss will say no. Then what do? You go and look at your expenses, you look at your budget, and maybe you can reduce your wants.
Okay. So when you look at our expenses and we say, okay, there are certain needs which we can suppose, for example, in groceries, for example, if you are spending 10,000 rupees, do you think it's prudent? If, say, for example, salary is not increasing, we need to savings, I cannot cut even more. Can I cut some of the needs that are there? Like, for example, groceries, if you're buying, say, I don't know, more expensive fruit, can I, or something else, can I reduce in these areas, you think?
Right, because it's always prudent, like for example, to buy vegetables, buy fruits that are in season. If you try to get something that is out of season, you try to buy something that is imported, like blueberries, you're automatically paying a price premium.
Yeah.
So you'll always pay an optimal price if you shop within season.
Yeah, right.
Also, there are so many things which you can look at, for example, when you're buying any products like biscuits, something as simple as a tomato sauce. Today, when you look at the packaging at the back, it tells you how much you're paying per ml, per gram. And curious enough, sometimes you'll see that it is the smaller packets where you're paying less.
Okay.
Sometimes you would buy a big packet and you think, I'm saving
a lot.
I'm saving a lot of money. But when you actually turn the packet around and you look at the per gram cost or the per liter cost, you're paying less on smaller. So it works differently for different products. But yes, within that itself, you can optimize. I've seen people with a basic, say, 5,000-7,000 rupees investment, setting up their own kitchen gardens at home. They set up this tower with soil, and the soil itself, they enrich it using compost from the wet waste at home. So there's a lot of areas where people can optimize if you want to optimize, even on things like your groceries.
Yes, I think that's true. You need to ask yourself the question, is it prudent to spend so much on groceries if it's too high? Yeah. Can I maybe, if let's say you're comparing your budgets and you're seeing that your grocery bill is going up, but it's too much, then maybe you can be prudent, and God is calling you to do that, be prudent with even your every expense. So you can have a look at it and check whether it can be reduced.
Okay. Because I think we just try to say, oh, this is our need, and we try to wave it off and justify it, but we need that. But if you're not like a big family, spending 10,000 rupees, is it even justified? I think that's something that we need to internalize and see whether do we even need to spend that much money? And if we are, then do we need to spend that much? Okay, so I just want to check with you, since we are on this about expenses and everything, what are some of the common spending traps that sometimes we don't realize that is draining out of our money? One of the things I can think of is subscriptions. We feel okay, we need that. Okay, maybe we've not understood that need and want. Okay, now we can be clear about that. But we don't know that some of the things are draining our income, are draining our money. What are some of the spending traps that we need to be aware of?
So basically, today we have this add to cart culture. So what happens, it's so easy, today with mobile apps. Yeah. And even if you leave something in the cart, you have a notification which suddenly comes in the end of the day saying, this item is left in your cart. So even if you have that kind of mindset that, okay, let me just browse, and it will give you a reminder that you are browsing this. Would you like to buy? So, you're constantly hit by this information. So one is this add to cart culture. Second thing is buy now, pay later. Like, Amazon has this pay later where you buy now, you pay later, but eventually you're paying, right? Another thing is credit cards. Another thing is your EMI conversion on credit cards. So these are the various aspects which are leading us into spending traps. And all these traps are something we end up because we don't have that budget.
Right.
And even if we have that budget, we are not doing the monitoring like what Brendon mentioned of that app. So it's something which goes hand in hand. You have your budget, you have the monitoring of your budget, and that's what helps you avoid these multiple spending traps that throw themselves virtually in your face every day.
I think we need to be very conscious about like where we are spending our money on. Like I was telling you about subscriptions. Like we don't even know where our money is going, what we have subscribed to, because right now the whole thing is about subscription culture. Everything is subscription based, right? So like you want to buy groceries, do subscription. You want to buy any kind of entertainment, subscription. So I think we need to be a little bit more careful about what we are subscribing to. I think even Amazon and everything have a subscription thing. So like we need to be Prime, yeah.
You have your
Swiggy, yeah, correct.
Some other membership.
Yeah, correct.
Memberships and subscriptions.
Yeah. I mean, I like the fact that there are ways that we can spend without putting one-time money on a product. I get that. But I think it's becoming a trap. I think that's one of the biggest traps I think a lot of people are falling into. Like credit cards. Can you talk about credit cards also? Like how can that be a trap?
My number one advice, when somebody is taking a credit card is I tell them, if you can put the credit card on an auto debit for the entire amount, then it's okay. Then that means you can afford the expense. If you feel that, I might pay the minimum amount due, then it's a tricky situation because you're buying something you can afford.
Yeah.
So you treat your credit card like a debit card.
But hear me out. Yeah, exactly. So if you have the money, why would you want to even buy a credit card? What do you gain by buying a credit card if you anyway have the money and you can afford to pay it?
So how it works with credit cards is, let's say you want to buy a phone, okay, and it costs 1 lakh, and you have 1 lakh in your account, and you have a credit card. What would you do?
I would prefer not to spend my money, bank's money, apparently.
Okay. That's right. So what happens now is when you use a credit card and you swipe the credit card, let's say case one, where you buy it, you just pay the money and you get the phone. You get the phone, but your bank is zero. But when you swipe a credit card, your 1 lakh stays in your account for 45 days. And that 45 days gives you that little bit of interest at 3%, little bit. Yeah. But if you can do this throughout your, like what we did a calculation, if someone spends at 25, he spends 30,000 per month, right? On whatever. Yeah. And at 85, he's saved about 54 lakhs, right? So this is how a credit card helps you. But what you need to do is you need to spend your credit card only on your needs. Okay. Right? And you need to, what we do many times, we go for aspirations. Maybe I want to buy this phone, which I can't afford, so I'll use a credit card.
Yeah. Correct.
And then what happens, the interest rate on a credit card is upwards of 35 to 40%. So what they say it's just 3. But 3% per month.
Per month.
Right? So you multiply that by 12 and then you'll get a heart attack, right? So what happens is, if you are able to manage your money very well, in the sense that you have money, and you're anyway going to spend 30,000 from your bank account, then you can use a credit card because you already have that money. Yeah. But if you don't have money, and because you don't have money, you're swiping the credit card, then please don't get a credit card. You will never get out of it. You'll be stuck in the debt trap. Yes.
Unending cycle of debt. It's all about prudent use, Basil. Now, suppose you have the discipline. On credit cards, you also get cash back. Yeah. On credit cards, you earn points. Yeah. On a recent trip, when I booked my tickets, 80% of the cost of the tickets is what I got through my credit card points. Okay. And something which I accumulated over a period of time. You have to have that financial discipline. Yeah. There are credit cards which give you, say, cashback of 5% or different cashbacks. Yeah. So if you optimize this well, credit card becomes a very good tool. Correct. It is the same thing like how we spoke about money earlier. Yes. You don't let the money own you. So you don't let the credit card own you. You own the credit card. So you optimize it. Brendon made a very valid point is you use it for your needs. Okay. Don't use it for your wants.
Because you know that you cannot afford that and you think that, oh, I have this extra money, some lying in someone else's bank.
And what happens, one small trick that the banks play is they say something minimum that you have to pay.
Can you explain that?
So what happens is they say that, let's say your bill is about 1 lakh. If you pay just about 2,000-3,000, you can put it to the next month, and you have to pay 3% more per month, which is like nothing. So next month it'll become 2,500. It's fine. I can keep just rolling the credit card. But what is happening is that is compounding, and if you pay the minimum amount due, that means that entire amount that is remaining is going to increase by 36% per year. So if it's 1 lakh, it's increasing by 36,000,
Oh
after
my
11
goodness
years.
me.
So that's why this.
So that they don't tell, huh?
Yes. So actually that happened to me in the start of my career. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Nobody had
Like,
told
I don't have to
me.
pay, like,
So
full.
then earlier I would do minimum amount due, but then it's too bad because it reduces your credit score. And
Can you talk about credit score? Like, does using the credit card increase your credit score optimally? Can you explain that?
Correct. So credit card has quite an impact on your credit score.
Okay.
So whether you use it well or you use it badly. Now, if you use it well, number one is in terms of your age of credit. When banks are looking, say tomorrow you're going to go for a home loan, other loans, the banks look at whatever age of credit. So the longer you hold the card, it shows credit age. Repayments, on time repayments, timely repayments is a very critical factor, because based on that, a bank knows whether you're a good prospect or not. The same way, if you don't pay on time, it is reported.
Okay, got it.
So it is a credit card can help somebody who doesn't have a credit score to build a score. So that's why sometimes even when people are denied credit cards eligibility, they take a credit card backed by a fixed deposit.
Okay.
Just so that they can use the card to build
Build a credit score. What are the
score.
other ways of building a credit score?
The credit score is mostly built through your credit history, which is like your loans
and everything.
and borrowings, like loan against, say, securities, loan against property. So it is built on what you borrow. So a credit card is like an unsecured borrowing line.
Okay, got it.
So that's why it's very important. So sometimes people, when they've reached huge amounts on their credit card, they settle it with the bank. Now suppose you owe a 1 lakh. The bank might say, okay, it's outstanding for so long, it's become non-performing asset. We'll settle for 60. People feel that they've got a discount of 40. But then everything, whether it's a credit card loan, whether it's a bank loan, whatever loan you might try and settle with a bank, it all reflects in your credit score. Okay. And then tomorrow nobody wants to touch you because they feel you will default on their loan and then you will want a settlement there.
So credit score basically it's a score like from 0 upwards of 700 and all that. So what happens is what the score tells you, the higher the score, that means you're more reliable in terms of borrowing. So it's like a CV, you take a CV and you go for a job. So it's basically your history, what did you do and all that. But if you don't pay, then a black mark comes in a CV and nobody else will want to employ you after that, right? So similarly, and if they want to employ you, then they will put up their price, So instead of giving you a loan at say 8%, because they don't know whether they're getting the money back, they want to increase it just to ensure that they have that more money because they're taking the risk. They'll give it to you at higher. But you're saying, okay, what if I just increase by 1%? But that 1% over like a home loan, over like a 30-year period goes into lakhs, So that's why credit score is something that's very important. And if you're taking a credit card, ensure you pay the amount so that your credit
full
score,
amount, not the minimum amount.
Yes. So credit score is something that is very important to take loans. Okay. And if you're a high credit score, that means you are more reliable.
Yeah. What are some of the tricks that you can share with our audience where we are looking at, when we are overspending? What are the tricks that would help us to curb that? Can you share some of the tricks?
One element, Basil, would be if you're doing your expense to a credit card, treat it like a debit card.
Okay.
Put it as an auto debit on your bank for the full amount due. Okay. So when you set a credit card on auto debit, you've got two options: minimum amount due, full amount due. Always set it for the full amount due. So mentally you're prepared that, on this date, this entire amount is going to get debited. Yeah. So that is one thing. Yeah. Another thing is somebody is indulging in overspending. I always suggest to them as close as possible. So your salary gets credited on the first of the month. Whatever debits you need to set in terms of your, say for example, your investments or whatever it may be, set it for the very next day. Okay. So these are two things which I strongly promote, if in case somebody feels that yes, I'm going to overspend. If necessary, you can even edit your credit card limit.
Okay.
The banks allow you to, they give you a maximum limit, which you can adjust with a slider in your net banking app. If you feel you're not disciplined enough, adjust the credit limit. That if you know that, okay, my budget, say for example, is 25K a month, and you're going to incur most of these expenses on your card in order for cashback and whatnot, credit card points, set it for 30,000. So even you try to swipe for something beyond that, you'll get a message from your bank saying that, credit card limit this. So then at least it becomes a
Tangible thing for us to
for you
see.
saying like, oh, I'm going beyond my budget.
Yeah, I think it's very important because when you're budgeting and you said, okay, this is what I'm going to spend.
That's it,
And then I
right?
put the credit limit and I said, okay. And then sometimes you forget. It's like, but like the new iPhone 17 Pro has come.
Correct.
I need to look at that. And then when you go to buy, it's like, oh, wait.
Yes, it says decline.
It's a reminder that I have put a budget there.
Yes.
Do you
Also,
have any?
yes. Also, how do you manage all this? A simple trick is you need to have two accounts. How many accounts you need to have? Ideally, you should have two accounts. Okay. One is an investment account where all your investments happen, your mutual funds, your EMIs, everything comes from the investment account. And the other one is your expense account. Now, what is the expense account is usually a salary account. Okay. Yeah. So whenever you get a salary, that's the expense account, and the investment account is a separate account. So keep two accounts. Now, how does it look in practice? So let's say this person, he earns 60,000, as you can see. So 60,000 comes in, it comes in the salary account, right? So how much he spends? 45,000. So he transfers the remaining 15,000 to the investment account, right? So now he's only left with 45,000. So he knows mentally that this month I have 45,000 to spend. Okay. Right? The one thing which we'll cover later is emergency fund. Where do you keep your emergency fund? This account or this account? You keep it in the investment account. Okay. Why do we do that? Because sometimes on the salary account, you may go 45 at the end of the month, you have 2,000 rupees. Yeah. But if you don't keep it in this account, any other account, then you'll get a minimum balance. Yeah. You'll get a charge, So the salary account is usually a zero balance account. So you can go down to almost zero. Yeah, without any charge. So keep your expense account, your budget now. So keep that budget in the salary account, which is the expense account, and the investments is where all your investments are happening. This also helps, in terms of tracking. Okay. Suppose you want to track your expenses, go to this account. Suppose you want to track your investments, you'll go to this account. Okay. If you mix both, and then you want to track your investments, you'll see all your expense heads, so it will become so cluttered. But you have to be very clean, this is an A. So that's why it's very good. Now, how do you plan it in practice? You have your budget, you have your two accounts. The money comes in, you move the 15,000, then you have 45,000. Then what you do is you use your app, right? Whenever you make an expense, track it. Then let's say start of the month, first of the month. Then on 7th of the month, week 1 is ended. After week 1, you have a meeting. If you're married, you can have with your spouse. If you're alone, then you just look at your Excel and see where I'm at. These apps also, they show you, how close you are to your budget. So then you track your budget and track every week how much you're moving towards your target. And then that's how you manage, and then the investments happen and the expenses happen. Now, if let's say on the 25th of the month, you are down to zero, then what do? Then you have an emergency fund, which we'll talk later, which is in this account. You transfer some of that, you transfer like 5,000 rupees because you may need very less money to survive then. Transfer that 5,000 over here. So let's say your emergency fund is 2 lakhs. We'll come to that later. That means this is my fund for emergency. Now the 2 lakhs goes down to 1,95,000. Then you have 5,000 to survive those last 5 days. You survive. And when the money comes in, the 60,000 comes in, you transfer a little more to replenish that account. So that is how you manage your expenses, your investments, your everything.
Okay, we were talking about budgeting and you mentioned about emergency fund and some investment and savings. And all my life, my grandfather used to say, me to say 500 rupees in SBI account, savings account. And that's all I've been taught. Okay. For us, especially as Catholics, Christians, even for others should we plan? Should we plan our investment? Should we plan our future? Or should we just say, God will provide here. He will give everything to us. What's your perspective on that?
So let's illustrate this with a story. Okay. So there was a flood expected in the village. Mm-hmm. So the first government announced and said, everybody clear. So this guy who says, I will not clear. I trust in the Lord. Village started getting flooded. Rescue workers came. through the water saying, clear now. He says, no, I trust in God. And he kept climbing his house. And they came by boats and they said, come with us. We'll take you to safety. And he was like, no, I trust in God. Flood reached. He was on the roof. Naval helicopters came. They said, come up. We'll take you. And he was like, no, I trust in God. And eventually the water went above his roof and he drowned. And then he reaches the pearly gates and he says, Lord, I trusted in you that I would be saved. So God said, I sent the government workers. I sent the rescue workers. I sent the boat. I sent the helicopter. What did you want me to do? Did you want me to come down and save you?
Yeah.
So, jokes apart, I feel if you relate to the story, the Lord has also given us a lot of options.
Yeah.
Which reminds me of another person who once told me, I'm not renewing my car insurance because I trust that the Lord will not make me meet an accident.
Wow.
Yeah. So I said the Lord has also provided you with a facility of a car insurance. And the Lord also expects that you'll abide legally, because legally you're supposed to have a third party cover for your vehicle. So yes, while we trust that the Lord will provide, we need to do the very best from our side. As the Bible also says, you don't put the Lord to the test, right? So the Lord has provided various options to us. There are many people who will help us out with different options. It's very important to understand, evaluate, and make the best use of the money that the Lord has given us.
Right. Even I agree with what he says. But there are some people who say, that they quote the gospel. Where Jesus says, look at the birds of the air. They don't look at the flowers. Solomon is all of that stuff. And God feeds them, right? So don't worry. So many people quote that and say, why to worry? God will feed me. I'm more valuable than a bird. But what they don't see is that God has given you something which has not given the birds and the plants. He's given you intellect, which they don't have. And he wants you to use that intellect to plan properly. The second one is about the parable of the talents. The one who didn't do anything, the other ones, they multiplied their talents. The one who didn't do anything, Jesus said that person did wrong, right? Yeah. So what God is trying to tell us is that we cannot put our hands up and not do anything, like how the person the talents did. Yeah. And God has also given us intellect. So what we need to do is, yes, God will provide, but He's also provided us with our brains, right? Yes. And as having that brain, we need to understand how to invest, how to plan, how to save. And after doing everything that we can, after we doing our part, then leave it up to God, and God will definitely provide, and you also need to do your part. So let you do your part and let God do the rest.
I think very irrational for us to first of all take verses out of context completely and make 2 and 2 together. So look, this equals this. I mean, if you say this is what God is telling you, but then why would God give us the parable of talents? It doesn't make sense, right? So you need to understand, when people quote Bibles, you have to understand the context behind why God is saying that to a specific audience, or is he speaking to you. So it's very important for us to not conflict those two and come to a conclusion like, okay, like God is talking to us in different ways at different times. So yeah, I think it's very irrational for us to take things out of context and say, oh, God will take care of us. I think it's very important for us to look at the money that God has given us, the stewardship that God expects of us, to take it seriously. So help us understand, what are the ways that we can just start, this process? What is there a process, or do we just I know there's a steps, like the steps were the first step was like do tithe, then needs, and savings, and then wants. But is there a process that we can start investing right now?
So Basil, it's something that I'd like to call as the pillars of financial planning. Okay. Just how pillars support a structure, the very same way there are pillars in financial planning also. Number 1 is your emergency fund. Then is your health insurance. Then is your term plan. And then comes your investing. Let's take it up one by one. Yeah. So let's first talk about your emergency fund. Let's go back to the days of COVID, where people overnight lost their jobs. Yeah. Not everybody was fortunate where the employer paid the monthly salary. Now you've lost your job, but your rentals continue. Your electricity, your water bills, your utilities, your groceries, all those continue. So if you're living paycheck to paycheck almost, where will those funds come from?
Okay.
Hence comes in the emergency fund.
Okay.
Emergency fund should ideally be about 6 months worth of your monthly expenses.
Correct.
Why we say 6 months? Because say for example you're unemployed or you fall ill, approximately
6 months
it will
is-
take you
would be
about
like a
6 months to
recovery
find
time.
a new job,
Yeah.
recover back. So you got to have a fund separate from your main account where you can park roughly 6 months worth of expenses in this account.
Okay. 6 months of your salary or 6 months of your expenses?
6 months worth of your
So,
expenses.
for example, in the case of that person, his salary was 60, his expenses were 45. So 45 into 6. Right?
And
that would be
when
his
you talk about your expenses, it is expenses that you
need. Right.
Yes.
Correct. Not a wants.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So there would be like 30,000 over there. So a simple thing, what you do is you look at, that's why the need and want breakup is so important.
Correct.
Yeah. So what you do is you can keep 6 months, but also there's a small thing that you can look at over here. It depends also on your job profile. Let's say you are a business owner. It may take 1 year, know. So,
correct.
or let's say you're fresh out of college. You may get a job in 2 months. Yes. So 6 months is a good thumb rule. But if you want to fine tune it a little bit, you can ask yourself the question, how long will it take for me to find a new job? Yeah.
And you would know how skilled you are, how
Yes.
Based on your
easy-
industry
Yeah,
and-
based on your industry.
Yes. So you can multiply your emergency, you can multiply your needs, multiply by that number. So let's say for me, if I own my own business, I'll keep it at 12 months, because if in case something happens, I may need some more time. Yeah. So it all depends. So the answer for all financial planning is it depends. There are thumb rules, but of course, depends on how you are. Yeah. So after emergency fund, so that's the first emergency. So we are looking at, there are various emergencies, right? The first emergency is a loss of job, what he spoke about. Then we look at the step 2 after that, after loss of job, we look at a health emergency. Right? Now, why do we do a health emergency? Why don't many people say, why do I need to put money? I can just invest that. No, insurance companies are taking all of our money. Why don't I just take that money and invest it?
So because that money is not going to come back to me.
Yes, it's gone.
It's
right?
gone.
It's gone to them. So what if, and how often do you go to the hospital?
Correct.
Right? Maybe 3 or 4 times in your
Correct.
entire life. And that happens when you're old.
Yeah.
So it's very rear-ended, not front-ended, your hospitalization, so to say.
Yeah.
So what people can do is, I'll just invest. Now, let's say you do that. Okay, let's say first year you're at 1 lakh, then it goes to 5 lakhs. Then after 5 years, you get 30 lakhs. And you're super happy, my investments are doing amazing. So what do? You buy a champagne, okay, and you pop it. And while you're popping it, by mistake, it falls on you and you hit your eye. And you have to go to the hospital, right? And the hospital builds a very intense surgery and this and that, and the hospital becomes 30 lakhs.
Yeah.
What will you do? Will you say, no, keep my mutual funds, I will figure it out, right?
Yeah.
You won't do that. You'll have to break all your investment and you're back to zero. So
correct, right.
So that's why having a health insurance is very important. Many people say, in terms of health insurance, I have a company insurance. Why do I need a health insurance, right? Why do I need another personal health insurance? So even in that case, let's say you are a CEO of a company and you have a 10 crore cover, right? And so you're covered, So no need of a personal insurance. So let's say you do that. Let's say that goes on, and let's say, God forbid, our body is like a universe. So many things can happen. It's like wear and tear. By nature, and you see our lifestyle. So by nature, towards like 50s and all, but natural people get hypertension, blood pressure, or God forbid worse, like diabetes, or God forbid cancer. Now let's say this person, for example, God forbid he gets cancer, but the insurance will pay, no problem. Right? But come 60, when he has to finally retire, right? That has to come. So once he retires, then he'll go hunting for his own insurance.
By then he's gone.
By then, no insurer will give him a health insurance. So that's why even though you have your insurance now, even though you have your personal insurance of the company, you should always take your health insurance. When is the best time to take it? Today, when you're completely healthy.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's how you look at insurance. And now the problem with medical insurance is inflation is very high. It's at 14%. So today, maybe 10 years back, people would take a 1 lakh cover and they were very happy. Let's say 10 years back, you took a 1 lakh cover, right? And that was enough, I'm sure you, and the room rents were very less. Everything was very cheap at that time, 10 years back. So let's say you took a 1 lakh cover and you kept taking that 1 lakh cover. Now, medical inflation is 14%. Right. So today, if you get like in a tier 1 city, if you get like a cancer or a horrible accident, the bills can be much higher. But let's say after you take the 1 lakh cover, after 10 years, you decide you get an illness. So what you do, you say, my God, the hospital bills are so high. I will increase my cover. They will not increase. Right. So you need to take like a health insurance, which also looks at something called no claim bonus. A little technical, but you should take a health insurance which keeps pace with medical inflation, or take a bigger cover. So that is step 2. Post that, once your life is covered, then you look at once your health is covered, then you look at life insurance. Now, simple question. Let's say there are 4 people in the family, right? There's a husband, there's a wife, and there are 2 kids. Let's say the husband is working, the wife is a homemaker, and the 2 kids are studying. Now, who will need health insurance over here, right? And is life insurance. So what is life insurance? Life insurance is, in case you pass away, in case a person's life is he pass away, then the insurance company will put some money on the table. So I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, I am working and I earn 50,000, and let's say my wife is not working and we have 2 kids. Now, how it works is that at the start of the month, I get 50,000. When I get that money, I put it on the family table, and my wife and kids come and they use it. And every month I do that. Now, what if, God forbid, I pass away? Then who will put the money on the table? They can be on the streets. So what we do is we pay a premium to an insurer, telling them that, see, I'm paying you this money. What you have to do is, in case something happens to me, I pass away, then you will have to put a big sum of money, let's say about 2 crores. And they will put that money, and my wife and kids have 2 crores. They will withdraw 50,000 from it every month, and it will be as if I'm alive giving them money. Right? So that's why a life insurance. Now, coming back to the question, who needs a life insurance? There are 2 conditions. The first condition is that the person should be earning money. They should be bringing money to the table. Correct. And so they should be bringing money to the table. And the second condition is they should have dependents. There should be someone who is taking money from the table. Right?
That rule is very important. It can't be like, say, for example, the wife.
Yes.
Taking an insurance for life insurance from the wife would be redundant, right?
Yes. Many people, what happens is agents, when a person is born, take insurance for that person. So let's say a child is born, take insurance. It's very cheap. But how does that not make sense? Suppose you take the child, and let's say, God forbid, he passes away. There will obviously be emotional loss, but there will not be any financial loss. Yeah, correct. So you don't need to insure people who are not working and who don't have dependents. Let's say there's a very rich uncle who is not married and who has no dependents, and he takes a 10 crore life cover, and if and he's not giving money to anyone, he's independent. That's not right? If he passes away, then who's that money is going to go to? Yeah, people may be hoping. Yeah. So it's not right to take a life insurance. You have to take it only if you have dependents and if you're earning an amount.
Just to add to Brendon, I think the question which needs to be answered is, if I pass away today, will there be somebody in financial distress?
Right.
So it answers that question, that if you say yes, that means you have a dependent, and what you were earning was supporting that particular person, supporting the family. So it's just this very simple question. If the answer is no, you don't require a term cover.
Okay. So is life insurance term cover a optional thing? Essentially? Only if your answer is no.
If the answer is no, then...
Okay. So like you said, term cover, there are various insurance, Now, what you should keep it very simple. Insurance is very simple. Just take a term insurance. Okay. And take a term insurance for the time in which you will be doing these 2 conditions. Okay. So let's say you will be earning money till the age of 45 and then you're going to retire. Okay. Then take an insurance only till 45. Why? Because after 45, you're retired. So you already have money. Absolutely. So God forbid you pass away, the money is already there. Correct. Right? Okay. Or let's say when people take insurance till the age of 85. At the age of 85, neither they're earning money, nor they'll have dependents. Their children would have moved out. Right? So the term is important, but also taking a term insurance is the most important thing. Many times what happens, insurance is the most scammed industry, so to say, because what happens is people don't give term insurance, because why is that? Because we as agents, people who are selling term insurance, if we sell a term insurance, it will be very less premium, and we get very less commission. You know, so we are not in a way, you know, we are not incentivized to sell. So what we will sell, there are other policies where we get a lot of benefit, but you don't get such a good benefit.
Like, what would that be? What can you give me an example of that?
So there are these policies where, for example, you know, there was this one of my client, he was age around 28. So it said you pay 1 lakh every year till the age of 40. And then from the age of 40 onwards, till you pass away, you will get, so how much money you paid? You paid about, let's say you paid about 15 lakhs. Okay. Let's say you paid about 15 lakhs every year. You paid 1 lakh from age 25 till age 40. You paid 15 lakhs. And from age 40 onwards, you get 1 lakh every year for living, basically. So, you know, and when you pass away, let's say you live a very long life and you pass away at 100, whatever you paid in the start, that 15 lakhs, you get that also back.
It seems like a good deal.
It's like a steal, you know.
Yeah,
so he immediately bought the policy.
So what's the problem with that?
So the problem with that now is, you know, in the year 1990, when someone, let's say someone told you in the year 1990, they told you, Basil, in the year 2025, I'm going to give you 1 lakh rupees. You'd be like, wow, 1 lakh, really? Yeah, I'll take it. But come 2025,
1 lakh is like,
what is 1 lakh? You know, so same way that 15 lakhs that they're giving when he's age 100, what is the value of that? You know, that is close to 1 lakh actually, if you take inflation into account. So what we need to ask, you know, very important question we need to ask the person who's giving us the policy, right? They're giving us some money back. Whenever you're getting money back, the most important question you need to ask is, what is the return of this policy? Because when you take a FD, you say it's 7%. When you take a mutual fund, you say it's 12%. But when this policy, you'll say, no, forget about return. You will get 1 crore when you're so and so age. You know, you're asking, Baba, tell me the return. And the returns range between 5 to 6%.
Oh man, it's worse than FD, man.
Yes. So that's why don't take any policy which mix insurance and investments. You know, keep them separate. For insurance, take only take a term insurance.
Plan.
Yeah, what happened now? How this whole thing happened is the people don't understand. You know, so when insurance companies started off very simple. You know, they said if you pass away, you'll get this. But the mindset of people was like, if I pass away, I'm not alive first of all, and they are going to get it. And what if I don't pass away? I'm not going to get anything. So that mindset was a problem. So the insurance said, okay, you will get this 1 lakh if you pass away, and like similar to that policy. And then they realized that people are not understanding anything. So we'll continue doing that. You know?
Okay, so what's the next step after term life? Do you have anything else after term? You did emergency, we did health, and we did term life insurance. Is there a fourth pillar to this?
So your fourth pillar is when it comes to your investments. Now, when it comes to investments, there is a huge, you know, boutique of options available, and today's customers are being thrown with so much of information, right? Advertisements from plans which mix insurance and investments, to today's global trading scams which are happening on WhatsApp and Telegram groups. So it's always important to, when you're going on your investment journey, you go with somebody who's trusted. You go with someone preferably who you've got a recommendation, say from a colleague or somebody else who's already been investing consistently, not some overnight Telegram or WhatsApp group which has emerged. Different types of products perform over different periods and different time horizons. So you need to be very sure, or at least try and determine at the beginning itself, what is your goal horizon for that particular investment.
Okay. So how do I go about it? What are the things that I need to then first look at when it comes to investment?
Right. So investing, let's just break investing down, right? So what is investing? Let's say you have 20,000 rupees with you. You have two options. Option number one, you go for a party and you sponsor all your friends, blow it off. It's gone. That is option number. Option number two is you invest it. What does that mean? You take that 20,000, you tell yourself that, you know what, I can use it right now. I can blow it on that party. But what I will do is I want to buy something next year. I want to buy a phone next year. So I will keep it aside so that next year when that need arises, I will take that money and buy that phone. Now, where will you keep that money? You can keep it under your mattress, but that's not going to earn you anything, right?
Correct.
So you have four options where to keep that money. So option number one is an FD. FD, debt funds, fixed income instruments. That is what the technical term. What that means, it gives you around a 6 to 7% but a fixed, safe investment.
No risk.
Yes. That's option number one. Option number two is you can invest in real estate. Of course, 20,000 is too less, but that is another asset class, so to say. Asset classes, you can put it in this asset. Yeah. So you can put it into real estate, into REITs, something. It's called a REIT. It's commercial real estate. Of course, the amount you need to invest is much more, but that is another option. Option number three is precious metals. You can put it into gold, silver, commodities, right? That is option number three. And option number four is you can invest in equity. Okay. Now, what is equity? Equity is a share market. You can mutual funds, equity mutual funds, shares. So all of these things are the fourth option. Okay. Now, how do you know which option to select? It's such a four options you have. Which option do you select? Similar to what he said, you need to be prudent, right? You need to understand what is your requirement, right? So you need to make your financial goal. What is a financial goal? It has three aspects. You'd have the purpose. It could be, let's say you want to buy a car. That's a purpose. You want to buy a car. You should have a time frame. Let's say you want to buy it in 1 year. And you should have an amount. Let's say it's 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs. So that's a proper goal. Now, once you determine that your goals, first you need to ask yourself, after doing the budget, ask yourself what are your goals. Then you need to, once you have all the goals set and the time horizon, then you have to map your goal to the asset. Now, how do you decide that? We'll just look at the two assets, which is a little simpler. The remaining we can do in another episode. Yeah. But we'll look at FDs, fixed income, debt funds and all that, and equity. Now, anything that is short-term in nature, you invest in FDs. Some people say FDs are bad. They're not bad. FDs are good. But
they are good for short-term.
They're good for short-term. FDs are not good for long-term.
Why is that?
So let's say you do a 1 lakh every month FD. Every month you put 1 lakh. For the next 20 years, and it gives you 6%. How much will you get? You'll get about a 4.6 crores is what the calculation is. But let's say it was the same thing in a mutual fund, in equity, in the share market, which gives you 12%. How much will you get? You get about 9.9 crores. There's a loss of more than 5 crores. So FDs are very good actually, but they're only good for short term. For long term, they can actually, give you a big loss. So what do we do for long term? We do equity. We do mutual funds. But the problem with equity, what many people say is that it's risky. It's so risky to invest in equity. Now, why
is it like gambling?
Very good question.
Yeah, to clear up that doubt, because a lot of people think it's gambling.
Yes. So whenever you need to invest, one thing you need to always have is your assumptions. Correct. What are the basis on which you're investing? When you're taking gambling, what is the assumption? You'll get it or you'll
not get it. Yeah, correct.
So why is assumptions very important? Because you always make whenever you have to take a decision, when you take any decision, it's a very good thumb rule to use to make an assumption. Let's take an example, a simple example. Let's say you want to go to a restaurant and you go to that restaurant because they've hired a world-class chef. So the assumption is that the food is good because the cook is good. Yeah. Now, let's say the cook changes, he goes to another restaurant. Will you go to that same restaurant? Probably not, because the assumption is violated. So similarly with investing, right? You need to formulate your assumptions, and only if you believe in it, should you go ahead. If you don't believe in something, if you don't believe in the assumptions, don't put your hard-earned money in something that you don't believe in. So what are the assumptions in equity? What you get in equity, is whenever you invest money in equity, you become the part owner. It's like a partnership. Like whenever you put money, let's say you buy a stock of, let's say ICICI, when you buy a share of ICICI, what you're actually doing, you and ICICI have become partners now. So whenever they get profit, some portion of it comes to you. So that is big. So now the question is, what are the assumptions that, let's say Colgate, all of them will do well in the future? Because if they do well, you as the owner will also do well. So to keep it very simple, we're not going to, like for example, Colgate, we're not going to look at how good the toothpaste is. We can't go to that level. Keep it very simple. There are two simple assumptions. One is population. More people, more teeth. More teeth, more toothpaste. More toothpaste, the owner will become rich. And when you invest in equity, you are also the owner. The second one is standard of living. If there are many people who are moving from villages to cities, they'll have more money, they'll drive up the economy. So what is the assumption is if you invest now and you buy a share, right? And you become the part owner of, let's say, ICICI, TCS, Reliance, all these companies that are there. You buy them now, so you are also owner. The assumption is that in India, for example, in 10 years, the population is so much. In 10 years, they'll become bigger and they'll become richer. And they'll need food, clothing, shelter. They're not going to go to Japan to buy food, right? they are going to buy from Indian companies, and they'll buy from ICICI, TCS, Reliance, from which you are the owner. So automatically you'll become rich. So, but in the short term, let's say you start a restaurant. Let's say you start a restaurant today. In the start, you may not do well. Why? Because it takes time for a brand to build. It takes time to get a loyal clientele. Yeah, so it takes time. So in the start, equity can go down because they're still establishing a business. But after, let's say after 10 years, it has given you 0 returns. No problem, because you don't need money in 10 years. You have your FDs and all that. But later on, the brand will build. They'll understand the needs of the people, and they start doing well. And when they do well, they do really well. And because you came in early, you will become very rich. So equity is not for short term. Equity is only for long term, because in the long term, owners will do well because of this assumption of population. So more people who are richer, they'll buy from you and you will do well. In the short term, you may see, if you see the mutual funds and all of that, if you invested in September of last year and maybe about 3 months back, you would have been negative. But if your time horizon is 10 years, no problem, because I don't need the money now. I made my goal is in the future. Let's say retirement is the goal. My goal is in retirement. So I'll just keep the money, eventually it'll go down, but it'll eventually come back. Now today it's come back up.
So there's a tendency and the temptation to withdraw the money from that.
Yes.
Do you think that's a good idea?
So how it works, why the temptation comes along? Because you have not planned properly. Okay. You don't know what you need money for.
The goals, coming back to the goals. Right?
Yes. So if you know that if the market, if you know that let's say I have 2 goals. I want to go for a holiday next year and I want to have retirement and my children's education, 3 goals. And let's say I put money for the holiday in a safe fund, and I put some money for my retirement and children. If the market crashes, you ask yourself, are you retired? Is your child going to study tomorrow? So if they're saying no, then just keep it. It'll go down, it'll come back up. But when you're coming closer to your goal, that time you need to move it again to a debt fund. So after life insurance, you need to look at your retirement. So in terms of retirement, you need to invest.
So before doing the investment, first have to look at retirement.
No, retirement is a part of
the investment.
Yes,
okay.
So there are 2 buckets. There is one emergency bucket and then investing bucket.
Okay, got it.
So in this emergency bucket, there is first emergency fund, then health, life, and the investing bucket.
Got it. Now it makes sense. So
yes.
Emergency bucket has 3, and then we have the investment bucket.
Yes, in the investment bucket, we start with retirement actually. Why we do that? Because there's something called compounding, interest on interest. Yes. So what you do is you start with and you put a small amount, because a small amount can grow, multiply quite a bit. And a little technical, but you invest in small and mid caps for this retirement. If your retirement is far away, okay, when retirement is in 1 year, don't do that. Okay. So if your retirement is far away, invest in small and mid caps, because what is happening, so what is small and mid? It's the size of the company. But if you're buying a small and mid cap, you're buying small companies. Small companies may close down tomorrow, but you're buying many small companies. Some may close, but over the long term, they tend to do well, right? And if you're then after you finish retirement, then you go to your other goals. Okay. Yeah, so your other goals can be a car, you want to buy a house, you want to go for a vacation, you want to plan your marriage, you want to, anything can be a goal. You want to keep corpus for your children. You have the purpose, you see the time frame, and you see the amount. And accordingly, based on that, you can invest. So how it works, to keep it very simple, 0 to 2 years, you keep into FDs itself. Don't take any risk. Why in 2 years, if the market goes down, it may not come back for 2 years possibly. Yeah. 3 to 4 years, you look at something called hybrid. Okay. Hybrid is a mix of, it has some debt and some equity. So 3 to 4 years hybrid. 5 to 7 years, there are thumb rules, okay? You don't have to,
We've learned that thumb rules are just that thumb rule.
Yes. So 5 to 7 years, you can look at large cap. Large cap are large companies. ICICI, TCS, Reliance, H-tips. 8 to 10 years, you can look at mid cap, mid-sized companies. And more than 10 years, you can look at small cap.
Okay.
So that is then that is step 4, the goal planning part.
Okay, got it. So by what number can I just start, like with regards to how much money can I start with, like 500 rupees, or do I need a lot of money to start investing?
Basil, today investments have become with such low tickets that you can start with as low as 100 rupees.
Really?
Yeah, which they call it like a micro SIP.
Okay.
So you can start with as low as 100 rupees. And to add to Brendon on why maybe this first 100 should start in your retirement fund is because you want to buy a car, you will get a loan. You want to buy a home, you get a loan. You want to buy some personal item, you'll get a loan. But nobody's going to give you a loan to retire. Right? That's how you need to fund your own expenses, and you start early. And why you go for a longer term product is because if you say that, okay, I'm going to live off interest of my fixed deposit, inflation is going to eat into those returns. And if the rate your fixed deposit gives you doesn't beat the rate of inflation, and you're living off the interest that comes from your fixed deposits, eventually what it means is that you will one day start breaking your fixed deposits in order to be able to make your monthly payments, because the interest amount which you're getting is not covering. Because when you look at the concept of inflation, every year prices move upwards. And if your investment instrument doesn't give you a return that beats inflation, at one point of time, you will definitely be eating into your corpus. And if you're retired at that point of time, it's going to be a very difficult situation, because you don't have any other means of earning to build a bigger corpus.
Yeah, from his point of retirement, it's very important to plan your retirement well. It is not out of fear or not out of greed, but it's being prudent to plan your. So how do you do that? What you need to do is you look at your expenses, right? Let's say you're spending about 50,000, and now these are expenses. Like we look at the expenses, right? These are expenses minus the ones which may not be there at retirement. For example, let's say you're staying on rent and you foresee you'll buy a house, so you can minus that. Let's say you have kids and you're paying all the education, you may not, that won't happen, so you minus all of that. So let's say minusing all of that, let's say it's about 50,000, and let's say you are say 30 years old today. Then what you do is you project your retirement. You can do these in any of these online calculators.
Correct.
You project your retirement. How much? So then if you're spending 50,000 today, how much will you spend when you retired, let's say 60? Let's say it's about 2 lakhs.
So will it calculate inflation and everything for me?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Inflation at 6%. Okay, it's 2 lakhs. Then what you do is you need to calculate what is the retirement basically. You have a chunk of money from which you're withdrawing money, and that chunk of money is becoming less. And at life expectancy, which is we take it at 85, it actually becomes zero. That is, if it becomes zero when you pass away, then you
you lived your life.
So now we calculate how much would that be. Let's say it's about 5 crores. Right? What does 5 crore mean? 5 crore means if you have 5 crore and you're withdrawing 2 lakhs every month. 2 lakhs every month at 60. Very technical. Yeah. But 2 lakhs at 60 is same as 50,000 today. Oh, same money, because prices keep going up. So if you withdraw 2 lakhs at 60, that 5 crore will be enough. So now that you know it's 5 crore, that's like a magic number. Yeah. So you back calculate, okay, if I'm investing like a small and mid cap, and let's say I get a particular return assumption of 12%, how much I need to invest to reach that amount? This is a little technical, but that's how then let's say it's about 10,000 because it compounds, Yeah. So if you, from your salary, if you put 10,000 aside in a disciplined way, every month for the next 30 years, you will have that 5 crore and you can retire. So that is how you look at retirement.
Very nice. I think that understanding these 4 pillars are so crucial for us, because all we know about, we need to save, but how do we save? What's the procedure? What's the process of doing this? I think understanding that is very important. Of course, we couldn't go in detail about each of these things, and maybe in a future episodes we can talk about this in a bit more detail, how our audience can work through this. I just want to move to someone who is struggling financially. Like for me and for so many of us, like at the age that we are at, we're like, oh man, I didn't know about this. What do I do? Like, how do I start? I'm struggling financially. I don't know how much to save. Like, I feel overwhelmed. Where do I start? What do I do at this point of time?
I think your starting point would be writing it down. Okay. Because most often we keep things in our head. We keep postponing. We do not know what's our actual financial situation. Most often when you ask somebody, where did you spend this amount? They really honestly don't know, because they don't remember.
Correct.
So I think having a proper budget, installing an app, which today makes things so easy. In fact, if you're handling majority of your payments through UPI, credit cards, there are apps that just record the entry and you need to map the entry. Yeah. That this entry was for fuel, this entry was for, and it gives you so you got to get clarity by having a budget. You get further clarity by knowing, have you stuck to that budget and what were your actual expenses? So, planned versus actuals. And it's only then when you can come to a frame of mind where you know that, okay, I'm spending X amount And if I didn't spend it, I could spend that towards my investments.
Correct.
So I think that's something which gives you clarity of mind, writing it down.
Yeah, to continue with what, supposing you are just starting and you don't know what to do, that would be a perfect way to start. Then what you do is, after you've made your budget, you've tracked your expenses, now you know your income is coming, your expenses are going out, you have some money, right? Now what do you do with that money, right? You follow our steps. Step 1 is you build your emergency fund in case you lose your job, right? Because if you invest everything, right? Let's say you put everything in mutual funds and you lose your job, then how are you going to have bath?
Yeah,
you can't buy your soap. So you'll have to break your mutual fund, which may be down at the same time.
Correct.
So step 1 is build your emergency fund. Then step 2 would be do your health insurance. Step 3, if required, do your life insurance. Then step 4, do your retirement plan, right? Invest for retirement. Step 5, look at your goals. Now let's say your emergency fund is done. After, let's say now you are at a stage where your emergency fund is done. Then go for step 2. Let's say you're at a stage where all your emergencies are done, insurance and everything. Then go to step 3, start a retirement. If your retirement is also done, then go to step 4, right?
Retirement and step 4, which is like your
retirement and other goals.
Other goals can go simultaneously.
It can go simultaneously, but start off with retirement.
Okay.
So you can do the emergency thing. You can do it simultaneously if you want. But only after this block is done of emergency, then you go to the next block. Okay. Because why is that? Because if God forbid you have a lot of money, but you've not taken the health insurance, then this is gone.
Yeah. So you'll have to take out a pool from the emergency and the mutual fund. And if you've not done the health insurance, for example.
Yes. So depending on where you are at, so again, it depends on where you are at life. Then see which step you're done with, and accordingly continue from that step.
Okay. Skipping step is not recommended, right?
Yes.
Not recommended.
Okay. What if someone is already in debt right now? When someone is in debt, emotionally, physically, spiritually, we are like, it's a lot of toll on us. What do you suggest that we do? What's the first thing we do to get out of this situation?
Basil, number 1 is you need to analyze what is the kind of debt, and what is the rate of interest the debt is carrying, and always work towards bringing down the rate of interest. Like, for example, if somebody has a credit card debt and if they are eligible for a personal loan will be far less compared to what a credit card loan would be. So I would say take that loan, close off the credit card debt, and if you've got into the debt because you've been irresponsible, close your card after making the entire payment, not settling with the credit card company. If, say for example, you have gold ornaments when you pledge, you can get it at a lower rate of interest, lower than personal loan. So it will all depend on analyzing what is the kind of debt, what is the rate of interest it is carrying, and can any other loan or any other form of repayment happen at a lower rate of interest than the coupon the current debt is carrying.
So what you need to do, first step, don't worry. Don't worry. First of all, this money is not yours, just a steward. So don't take so much attention, it's all God's. Second step, pray to God. Then what you do after you finish these 2 things, then you need to know whether it's like what he said, good debt or bad debt, Now what is this? Many people say loans are bad, so are loans good or bad? That's a very important question which you need to answer. So to answer that question, I'll just take a simple example. Let's say you have 10 lakhs with you and you want to buy a car worth 10 lakhs. What would you do, Basil? You have 2 options. Option number 1, you take a loan, and buy the car. Option number 2 is just empty your account and just buy the car. What would you do?
I would take a loan.
Take a loan. Okay. So the right answer is that always the right answer. It depends, It depends actually on
That's going to be the theme of the podcast. It depends.
So it depends on the interest rate. Yeah. Let's say, for example, the interest rate is 5%. It usually is not, but let's say for this example it's 5%. Then it's good to take a loan. Okay. Because if you take a loan at 5%, you still have the 10 lakhs with you. Yeah. So you can even invest that in an FD and get 7%. 7%, yeah. So 2% is your benefit. But let's say the interest rate is 12%. Then just take the car. Because if you take the loan, if the interest rate is 12%, you take that loan, you still have 10 lakhs. You need to invest that 10 lakhs so as to get more than 12% for it to be a benefit, right? So now, good debt and bad debt. It's good to take a home loan. Why? Because the debt it's at 8%. So even if you have, let's say you want to buy a house worth 1 crore and you have 1 crore with you, it's better to take the loan because you still have 1 crore. You can invest that over that time period of a loan.
It's a long
over 20 years, you can invest and get 12%. But let's say the interest rate is like a personal loan. So auto loans are okay. Home loans are good. Personal loans are bad, and credit card rates are the worst, right? So personal loans are 11% onwards, yeah. So that's why you need to see what is the debt you're stuck in. If you are in auto loan or home loan, then don't worry about it. If you're on credit card loan, then you really need to worry about it. So what do you do if you're in that situation? If you have a loan which is more than 11%, you need to, if you're investing, then stop investing. Why? Because by closing this 11% or 36% loan, let's say you have a credit card of 36%, by closing it, in essence, you are investing in something that's giving you 36%. Because they are taking that 36% out. So that's why you stop that investment. What you do is you need to look at your needs and wants, and you need to live in a little bit of austerity, a little bit of a tough life for some time, till that is out. Because otherwise, like, it's going to keep draining out and you're never going to get out of it. So what you do is you look at your expenses, right? You try to remove as much as wants, and also look at your needs. Are you spending too much on your needs? Try to live in a little bit of austerity, right? Austerity in a little bit of checking everything properly. Then save as much as you can. Move that money to a debt fund, right? And you try collecting as much as possible and just wiping off the debt. And once that is done, then you can think of your investing. So you still have to do the emergency, because imagine at that time if you fall ill, then you're in a bigger soup.
What about like medical crisis or job loss? How do I, if I've gone through that right now, how do I come out of it? What are your suggestions on that?
So for job loss is your emergency fund that is there, and for medical there's your health insurance. But what if you don't have? If you don't have money with let's say you have a job loss and you don't have money at all, you need to see whether you can reduce your expenses as much as possible. And if possible, you need to ask maybe your family, because otherwise you may have to take the worst. So try asking people. The last thing that you should do is take another loan. Personal loan. That's the last step.
You'll be looped into the inception of like loan over loan over loan over loan.
Yes.
It is indeed a very tough situation, and somebody is in this, and say for example they have not factored a health insurance, they have not factored an emergency fund. It's a very difficult situation. Like at that point of time, the only thing you can depend on is there a state government insurance that you're eligible for? Is there any institution which is subsidizing? Like I know somebody who has to take some immunotherapy because of cancer, and if you present to them certain income documents, they reduce the cost of the drugs by a certain bit. I mean, those are the only things that can be explored. GoFundMe kind of campaigns. But that's the reason, I think we're doing this entire podcast. So you don't reach this situation. There was an article which said one of the leading cause of debt is medical expenses.
What if the insurance gets rejected? How do you deal with that? How do you figure that out?
It's very important, Basil, while taking the policy itself, you declare everything. Most often declines happen
because of
not declaring. Declines happen because, say for example, there is modern treatment and there is regular treatment. So modern treatment, say, is a robotic heart type of surgery. The regular treatment will be where it is done by the doctors. So you need to be very sure what all your policy covers. So you need to actually read the fine print, actually sit with somebody who has experience in claim settlement. More than often, people go online. They just go to any website. They buy a policy. They don't declare conditions. Are you smoking, not smoking, drinking, not drinking? And they do not know what their policy covers. All they know is, okay, I've got a cover of 10 lakhs. What does that cover involve? Do you have a maternity? Do you not have a maternity? Do you have an annual health checkup? Do you not have an annual checkup? It's very, very important to read the fine print. As long as you declare, we always tell clients, declare everything. You rather take the risk of the insurance company saying at the beginning, I will not take you, then we try somewhere else. Or they load and they make say, okay, because you're a heavy smoker, that, you're going to pay a higher premium than the regular people. You rather take that than down the line have a rejection in your claim. And you go through every factor, like what all is covered. Is there any sublimits on your policy? Is there any limit from your room rent? Rather than going to the hospital and then getting a surprise there. So it's all about reading your documents properly.
I think taking active, role in your investments, in your insurances
It's very important.
is very important. Sometimes we just like, I'm just
Yes.
I'll give it to him to do it. And
You should also know why they will reject.
Correct,
Many
yeah.
things people don't understand insurance. So they can reject because of non-disclosure. You've not told them. So they think that you are a perfectly healthy person, and they'll tell you you pay this much a premium because you're perfectly healthy. But if you're not that healthy, then they've not given you the right amount of
Correct,
premium.
correct.
So that's why they will reject it.
Yeah.
Now, very important. There are some things there's a waiting period. People don't understand waiting period. They think if I take insurance, I'm going to be covered.
Yeah.
It's not covered,
It's not.
The only thing that's covered from day one is accident. You met an accident because you can't plan that, right? You just met an accident. So things like gallbladder stone and things that are slowly growing in the body, for example, stones or some issue with the uterus, all these, cataract, these are not covered for 2 years. Now, why is that the case? So you can also understand that. For example, let's say I have a gallbladder stone. Okay. So what I do is that now I know I have I did a scan and I find a gallbladder stone. So what I will do is I will first take a health insurance policy. Yeah. So I'll take a health insurance policy. I'll not take the agent. Agent also will say, you have? No, I don't have. How he'll know? Yeah. So you take the insurance one. Then what you do is you bear the pain for like some months, 3-4 months. Why? If I directly go, it will look very suspicious. Then after bearing the pain, after the 4th month, you go to a different scanning center. And they scan and then they tell you have gallbladder stone. You act all surprised, And then you go to the hospital and then they say you have a gallbladder stone. Yeah, just operate. So then they'll operate it, right? So, and you expect the health insurance to pay for that. So that's a scam, So to ensure that this doesn't happen, people having issues don't apply. They keep 2 years of waiting period. You're not going to wait for 2 years, right? With that gallbladder. Right. So that's why there's a waiting period. But people don't know that. They think that everything will be covered. So that's a very important. So you should know all the reasons why something can get rejected. Correct. Many people say that, I took insurance, I'm entitled to get the, so for example, let's say you have a small cough, and let's say you want to, you go to a very good hospital and you see their room is better than your room, might as well stay in that room, right? For one night. Yeah. So you tell the doctor, I want to get hospitalized, I'm having cough. Doctor will be very happy because he also has some targets or whatever. So he'll hospitalize you. But when you get that, when finally you have to go for the claim, all your details will go to the health insurance policy and they'll see that everything is normal. So why you got hospitalized?
Correct.
So they won't pay for that.
That's right. They'll decline.
So also you have to be hospitalized for 24 hours. If you leave before that, they won't pay. So you should know all these things. Maybe we can create a separate video where we list all the rejection reasons so that you know what you're getting yourself into by taking a policy.
Yeah. Okay. I think that was very informative about the section on how we can look at the overall perception of savings, not just saving mutual in savings account FD, but just overall looking at like emergency fund, about insurances and about retirement and how we can come out of all of this. I think it was a very eye-opening thing for me to know about a lot of things. I'm sure our audience also learned a lot from what you guys were talking about. I just want to move to a section where we can look at some clips and see whether some of the advice that comes online, is it good advice? Should we take all advice? Should they even take, maybe someone can react to this episode and say that, maybe was this good advice or not. So we'll react to some of the clips and we'll see whether this is good advice, not good advice, if you can add something to it. Yeah? Yes. You guys ready?
Yes.
What is the best financial advice you've ever received?
Invest in assets, not liabilities.
What is the worst financial advice you've ever received?
The way to build wealth is saving your money.
So true. Third question. What is something you used to value that you don't anymore?
Material things.
What is something that you think people think is important when it comes to money, but you realize that's not really the right focus?
Net worth. Net worth is a crap indicator of real success.
Okay. What do you think about this?
There are some things which do make sense. For example, saving. Saving is not just sufficient because you might save it in your savings account, which gives you 2.5%, rather than investing it into a better instrument which could yield much higher. So you have your 2.5% versus something which could give you much more.
Yeah.
Then he spoke about not investing in depreciating kind of assets.
Yeah.
So if you look at your phone, you look at your car, you don't require the replacement. Is your phone actually yielding you any money? Except, of course, if your job is relating to
Correct.
content creation and such, or your vehicle. So rather than that, if you invest that money into a appreciating asset, like it could be your fixed deposit for short term, it could be your mutual funds for long term.
Is home an appreciating asset?
So when you look at a home, if your home is for you're talking about taking a loan against to buy the home.
Yeah.
So in my perspective, that in today's real estate market, the way rents have appreciated, the way costs have appreciated for homes, if you're buying a second home on a home loan and you're looking to rent it out, again, it depends. Because, what is the area? Does it have tourism potential?
Okay.
Is there an IT park where, these employees are going to take? So it's very, very subjective. At one point of time, I remember when my parents had a home loan running, the EMIs and rentals almost, they matched each other. So it made sense. Even if you wanted to buy multiple homes, you could, because the EMI and rentals are close to each other. But today, with the way prices have spiked, it's a very conscious decision that you need to take as to what is the society outgoings, what is the maintenance costs, what is the rental that I'm going to get over the next 20 years. Suppose what is the interest rate will I be paying? So there's a lot of factors. When the home is your base place in which you're going to stay, anyway, you're not going to be changing your home every 5 years, 10 years, right? Over the period of 20 years, your home will definitely attain value. But if you're taking a loan to fund a second home, you're going to depend on a rent to fund part of that EMI. It's a major permutation combination to look at and to analyze deeply.
So what we need to understand is, first of all, what is an asset and what is a liability? Keep it very simple. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket, right? And a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. So, for example, a car, if it's going to take money out of your pocket, unless you're an Uber driver, then it's putting money into your pocket. So that's how you describe. Now, your own house, you're not going to, unless you're giving it on rent, it's not an asset. If it's your own self-occupied property, then it's an asset, of course, but it's not actually putting money into your pocket. Because even let's say you sell your house to put money in your pocket, but if you're staying on the street after that, then it's an asset, but you'll buy another house, right? So that's why it's self-occupied property is not an asset. So you need to put money, what he said is you need to put your money in assets. In assets, that means things that are putting money into pocket. So if you're going to with your money, you're going to buy a Mercedes, it is not putting money into pocket, it's taking money out of your pocket. So you need to invest. There are 4 assets, right? You need to invest in either real estate, either gold, silver, equity, or FD. So these are assets which you need to put money in.
Okay.
Yeah. And the last thing what he said, which I don't agree, so is net worth an indicator of success? Actually, net worth is what? Is assets minus liabilities. So if you take your assets and you minus your liabilities, it's your net worth. And if that is growing, that means you're successful. In financial terms, you are successful, But what he said at the end is it a real measure of success? What does that mean? He's not looking at the number. He's looking at the emotions also with it, So you can have like 10 crore, but you can be depressed because you have worked so hard to earn that 10 crore. You didn't get married, you don't want kids because they would be an expense, So you have 10 crore, but you don't have kids. And you don't have any social life, So you can have a lot of money, but do you have the things that you cannot put in an Excel, like your happiness? Yes. So that is, so net worth is a measure of financial success. Yeah. That is wrong what he said. But real success, I would agree. It is a measure of real success. He should have defined it a little better.
He's talking about success overall. I don't think he's talking about financial success. Because everything else why I'm saying is because he said that I used to think that material things would give me a lot of, you would love that. Now he doesn't. So I'm guessing he's talking about that. I don't think he's talking about financial success. If he's talking about financial success, then sure, that's like that's a fallacy. All right, let's move to the next one.
Yes, let's do that.
Neha, how much do you save per month?
Almost 60-70% of my income.
Don't you follow 50-30-20 rule of budgeting?
Actually, this rule will make you fall in debt trap.
What?
Let me explain. अभी मैं 1 लाख पर मंथ कमा रही हूँ, मानो तो उसका 50% यानी 50,000 जाएगा मेरी नीड्स में, 30,000 वॉन्ट्स में और 20,000 इन्वेस्टिंग में.
Right.
बट 5 साल बाद जब मेरी इनकम इंक्रीज होगी, मान लो कि 10 लाख हो गई, तो क्या तब भी 10 लाख का 50% मुझे नीड्स में खर्च करना चाहिए? नहीं. एक टाइम के बाद हमें अपनी नीड्स का अमाउंट फिक्स कर देना चाहिए और इन्वेस्टिंग और सेविंग का अमाउंट बढ़ाना चाहिए. जबकि हम करते उल्टा है, अपना लाइफस्टाइल अपग्रेड करने लग जाते हैं और इसी वजह से इनकम बढ़ने के बाद भी हम वेल्दी नहीं बन पाते.
So we should follow our own rules.
I think this is exactly not one size fits all. It doesn't work. This is like a thumb rule, and she's kind of saying that this thumb rule does not exist. So what she's saying actually made a lot of sense. So when your income increases, right, your lifestyle should not just increase to match that kind of need. That's why people with salaries keep on going up. They get more and more comfortable, you know, and their wants go up. Actually, what you should do is you need to be prudent with your finances and try to see your goals and try to invest more towards reaching your goals and reach it faster if possible. You know, so what they're saying over here is if your income increases and if you follow that rule, your needs are not going to go up so much. You know, so your needs ideally you should not just look at needs, and you should also look at wants, and you should kind of try to ensure that you are when your income increases, your investments increase.
Okay, not your needs and your wants.
Not your needs and your wants.
But I would say, wouldn't you be justified to have more needs, in the sense, like have better needs in the sense?
Yes.
Okay, maybe not wants, but needs.
Yes, you can. You can actually like get better stuff, you know, but you cannot follow the exact, okay, I'm going to increase it by 30%.
Okay,
you know, I can, of course, increase. I can live a better life because I'm earning more money. But I have to be prudent about that. I don't need to follow an exact rule and say, okay, now my threshold has become so much high.
So therefore,
now I can't fill this threshold, so I'll buy another car. You know, now I've reached the threshold.
I mean, it doesn't exponentially go up.
Correct.
In this way. So yes, while rules are good to follow at the beginning stages, you know, of life, career, as it advances, as your income also grows, there's a lot of things which change, and then sometimes you need to change the rules.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move to the next one.
Yes.
Hey Dad, can you give me 1 lakh pocket money? Okay. Even I want. Alright, I'm going to give you boys 50k per month for 10 years.
Yeah, boy. 10 years later.
Hey Dad, guess what? I'm a crorepati with 1.2 crores. Oh, sick! What about you? तुम लोग क्या फूक के आए हैं अभी? 20s are meant for party. I spent it on. Okay, I'm going to continue giving you boys 50k per month for the next 20 years. Sick! I'm going to spend all of this money on party. This time I will invest everything.
20 years later.
How much money do you boys have now? I have 5 crores. I have 11.5 crores. Oh, check the caption below.
Take it.
So what happens, you know, when you start early in life, there's something called as compounding which kicks in. You know, they call it it's a wonder of the world.
The eighth wonder,
of the world. Yeah. Because if you have an early start to life, whether it is even planning for your retirement, the amount that you would need to invest to hit your retirement corpus when you're 25, when you're 35, 45, 55, huge difference. So that's why, as you see in the video, even though the person who started investing earlier, the balance amount he spent it on parties and all, his initial corpus was already compounding at a particular rate. And hence he beat the guy who started later. Because he in total had a 20 years investment horizon, whereas the other guy had just a 10 years. So yes, if you start early, you can see compounding doing wonders to your portfolio. Like if you visualize like a pie, initially a small bit will be your returns, but eventually you will see that pie expanding, where eventually just a small bit will be your invested amount. The balance
Will be your return.
is what you would have earned over that period of time.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what he says. So compounding is the eighth wonder of the world. So what is compounding? Compounding is interest on interest, you know. So if let's say you worked very hard to earn 100 rupees and let's say you get a 10% return, you'll get an extra 1 rupee. Now that extra 1 rupee that came out of that 100 rupees, you got that. Now the next year, your invested amount will be 110, 10 rupees, sorry, 10%, 10 rupees. So now the 110 that you get, that extra 1 rupee that you get, you never worked for that. That happened just because of compounding. You know? So now I put some numbers to that. So whatever he did, I worked on Excel and I got the actual number. And some parts I disagree with what he says. So just looking at my laptop. So if you look at it, the return that he's looking at is about 12.27%. You know, so supposing you invest in the first case, you invest 50,000, and that you invested 60 lakhs in total. You know, 50,000 per month for 10 years, and the 50,000 that you're first investing is 60 lakhs. But if you find a present value, you know, there's something called time value of money. You know, money, 1 lakh in 995 is not the same as 1 lakh in 2025. So what happens is, in the 10th year, it becomes 2 crores, right? Now, what is compounding? Finally, when it reaches about 2 crores, then that 2 crores that is there, you know, you get, it grows a little bit. Every month it grows a little bit. Now, like, let's say you have 2 crores, and the 1.2, what he said at 1.2, that next month it grows a little bit. The growth is about 1.21 lakhs in that month. Now that 1.21 lakh by which it grew is actually kind of like a fresh investment that he's put in. So in the first case, this person has added 1.25 lakh, whereas the other person has just put 50,000. So what happens is compounding happens, and because of that, he earns more. But one thing is that this person put 50,000 for 10 years. The other person put 50,000 for 20 years. But after 10 years, the 50,000 that other second person is putting is not the same as the first person's 50,000. So if you look at a present value of all the 50,000 investment, in the first case, I calculate it's about 45 lakhs. In the second case, even though he's put about 1.2 crore, it's actually only about present value about 39 lakhs. So there are two things. One is this person has got lesser amount because of present value. Because imagine the last 50,000, it is barely anything. Right? But that is one thing. And the second thing is compounding. Because when it grew, after 10 years, it grew a little bit. That growth is actually a fresh investment. Where that person just starting 50,000, he's put 1.2 lakhs. So that is basically how compounding works for you.
Wow, that's amazing. I think more people should know about how compound interest works, because for them it's like, oh, it's math that I don't want to get into. But actually, when you really understand that, I think it's mind blowing.
The graph is like this, and then it goes like that, exponentially.
Yeah,
you know?
exponentially.
Yes.
Good. Let's look at the next clip.
Spend your money when you're younger. I was getting paid for 5,000 a month then. In 2002, you could get a 5-star hotel room for 5,000 rupees in Goa. Today, always included would be 35,000. If I told you don't do that hotel room, save that 5,000 rupees, and you saved it for 20 years, it became 30,000 today. And yes, it will still buy you that one hotel room. But you lost the meaning of living that 5-star hotel room when you were younger, which you can't get back. 5,000 then is 40,000 now. Today, if you have lived 20 years of experience, your ability to save today will be easily 1 lakh a month. In general, I would say save after you've learned to spend and enjoy your life.
Is it the opposite of what you just said?
Yes. So what he's saying is that you first spend and then you enjoy your life, and then afterwards you first enjoy your life, and then after you start. That's
when he's not spoken about the threshold of.
Yes. So the issue with what he's saying is, let's say you do what he's saying. You enjoy yourself.
Yeah, because according to him, right now is cheap.
It's time
whatever
to enjoy.
The time is.
Yes.
And he's looking at it from
and you enjoy now.
Let's take his example and say right now in this moment, 30,000 for us is probably nothing, okay? But in the next 10 years, it's more. So does that make sense? Like, is it like he's saying right now, enjoy the less inflation time, because in the future it won't be this less. Is that what he's trying to say?
So what I would say for him is, what he's saying is true in a certain way, but have you followed the rules of finance? For example, let's say we do what he's saying. He goes takes that 5,000 and blows it and enjoys his holiday. But let's say he's not followed the rules. And one of the let's say he did his emergency fund, but health insurance 5,000 it cost. He said, why would I health insurance? I'll blow it over here. So he blew it over here. But then he fell ill. Then he can never. Then he'll regret it, and he'll not be able to. He'll get into a debt trap, and then he'll never be able to go for his second holiday, right? But I agree with him in the sense that what if you have done your emergency, you're retired, your retirement, you have so much money that you're retired, you have all your goals completed, you basically are done, you have your emergency fund, you have the health, life, your retirement corpus is already set. then you can do that. You have excess money. But if you've not done the steps correctly, then what he's saying is wrong.
Okay. So as a young person, say 30s, 25, 30s, should I be enjoying more, investing more? What's your funda on that? What do you think we should do more?
I feel, basically there always has to be a balance in life.
Correct.
So if you look at the salary you're getting, if you look at the income, number one is you have to have a retirement, which we want to start investing well in advance. Through backward calculation, you're able to estimate what is the kind of corpus. So you look at what is your status in terms of your retirement corpus. Are you contributing sufficiently? But life also, you got to live your life. So say you're giving your tithes, you're, doing your donations, you're giving your alms. I feel you also have a holiday. You can budget for it. If you have a holiday bucket as a goal, you budget, right, for that bucket. You're saving in that bucket. So you can utilize this. But after what Brendon has said, right,
Yes.
you have all the steps. Because tomorrow the same 5,000 you will spend it on an ICU room.
Correct.
If you don't have your health insurance in place. So I believe life is a blend. You balance it off, but ensure that both your feet are on the ground and it's not hovering in the air that, tomorrow I will see tomorrow, because sometimes tomorrow never comes kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
And you should ensure that at least your emergency bucket is done.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, your health, your life, and your emergency fund.
Yeah.
Then let's say for example, you are in a situation that you have a goal. Let's say you have a house goal that you want to invest for your house. But this kind of thing comes up. Then you can actually look at it because it depends on your priority actually.
Yeah.
If your house goal or this other goal is not such a big priority, then maybe you can do what you want.
Maybe like you already have a house given to you by
somebody
ancestor.
loves to see the world, right? I mean,
Yeah.
And you say let me do it while I can.
Okay.
So what is important for you?
What drives you?
Correct. So that's what. So my thing is like, I'm not gonna go around the world when I'm like 60 years old and I'm retired. Why shouldn't I be enjoying that?
Right.
I think what you're trying to say is this. Yeah, if that's your goal, maybe do it. Maybe is that important to you, or is getting a house more important to you?
Yes. Right.
Because you have to choose your battle. You can go and fly around the world, but that means you will lose on the opportunity of someday buying a house. I think that's something that they have to
but if
choose.
for you going around the world is more important, then please go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
But do it after the emergency bucket is done.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Okay. Cool. I think we have a last clip that we can look at.
आजकल मैं फ्यूचर देखना सीख रहा हूँ, तो सच्ची आपका भी देख सकता हूँ। हाथ दिखाई, आने वाले 25 साल में आप करोड़पति बनने वाले हो। यकीन नहीं आता ना? It's very simple. Max Life Insurance is saving plan में 12 साल के लिए सिर्फ 20,000 रुपया पर महीना की इन्वेस्टमेंट पे आपको मिलेंगे 1.10 crores, वो भी guaranteed। आपको खुशी हो रही ना? I knew it.
Guaranteed.
So coming back to our framework, we spoke about, this is something that I completely don't agree with. Coming back to our framework, 0 to 2 years FD and guaranteed stuff, 3 to 4 years hybrid, and more than that equity, more than 5 years equity. Now this is a 25-year product, but where are you investing? You should know where you're investing. So again over here, coming back to our point, he's not telling the return percentage.
Correct.
Yeah,
He's giving you the overall.
He's just saying
amount.
that after 25 years, you will have 1.2 crore. But what is the value of 1.2 crore at that point? So we did a little calculation. So I did it, and it says it's at 6% of inflation, it's about 25 lakhs. Right? And the return of this policy, supposing you invest this 2.4 lakhs every year for 12 years, and then finally you get 1.1. What is the return? It's 7.34 to be precise.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you do the same thing, instead of, now see, this product has two components. It has an insurance component and a return component. You're getting a return of 7 point. If you do the same thing, but this time what you do, you take a term insurance. And with whatever's, supposing you had 2.4 lakhs and you took a term insurance of, let's say it's about 25,000, and the remaining amount, you put it in a mutual fund. That gives you about 12%. You would have about 2.3 crore. Yeah. So you would get much more, plus you're getting the same thing. You're getting a cover, plus you're getting a return. So that's why this is something I don't agree with. You should never mix insurance investment. He's mixing it. Yeah. And so why do we try to sell this more? Not me, but why do agents try to sell it? Because we get more commission.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why two things you need to ask is, one thing you can ask the person who's telling this to you is ask him, what is the return? And the second thing is, what is your commission?
Okay.
Because if you do it in a mutual fund, it's much lower. So let's say
You
that
can ask this to them.
yes,
Of course,
Yeah?
as a
Yes.
customer,
It's
you're
your
entitled
right.
to ask.
Yes, because in a mutual fund you get much lesser, lesser than a percent,
Okay.
maybe about approximately, it depends, but about 0.75% on an average, 0.75. But in this it's much more,
Okay.
it's like sometimes it starts at even 40%, then 20%.
Whoa.
Then so in the first year you get 40%, then 20%, 20%, and 5% throughout.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I want to feed my family, will I send? Will I do it for 0.75 or will I do it for 40 or 20 and 5? So that's why we need to really be prudent with our finances, and we need to understand this.
Yeah.
I think it's very important, Basil, that customers, especially when they go to banks, certain financial institutions, certain advisors, they push these kind of products because of the commissions involved. And psychologically,
and the targets also.
Targets. Psychologically, people want something back, right? So when you tell them a term plan, you don't get it back. It's a kind of a psychological impact. But they have to remember the same way. I mean, when you're paying a car insurance premium, you shouldn't say that, every year I have to meet an accident. So I can then to justify like the cost of the premium.
Yeah.
And so it's not like that, right?
Yeah.
So if anybody, when you get these kind of policies, all you need to do is look at the life cover, look at the tenure, say that if I took a term plan for this, how much it would cost me, and the balance amount, which I was anyway budgeting to pay, I run this as a SIP. Like just how Brendon has told the figures will just blow you away. And that's how you know how those kind of commissions can get paid.
Yeah.
So it's very important, I always tell people, go to somebody who's reputed, go to a financial advisor, who you have a referral, ask somebody about them, and then you can seek the right type of guidance.
Because what is happening? What are they doing? They get this 2.4 lakhs, right, from this customer. They will take 25,000 and put it towards a term insurance itself.
Yes.
Then the remaining money, they can invest it. They put some into bonds, some into FDs, and some into equity, and they get a much better return. And that is how they can guarantee, because they get at 12%. They can give you, like they are getting, if they do this, they are getting this 2.32 crore and they'll give you 1.1 crore. And they have pocketed 1.2 crore. So they're very happy. So that is why we work so hard. We should not give into this, and it's our hard-earned money, right? So we are responsible as financial stewards to make that work for us.
Okay. I want to move to the last section. We're going to talk about how has your faith helped you understand money better, and was there a point in life where your faith really challenged you and changed you, how you look at wealth, how you look at money?
I think the concept of tithing is something which really changed my perspective. I always felt tithing, alms giving, donation, everything was at the same level. I always felt that I need to determine where exactly my money. So if I want to donate money, say to the church, and I will say, okay, do you require fans? Do you require an audio system? And I would buy that, and I would, I would want to know where my money was going. Or even if I gave, say this, I budgeted say a 10%, and I gave that money to say an orphanage or an old age home, I would feel, my responsibility is complete. But when I understood the true meaning of tithing, where you give the money to the place where you get your spiritual nourishment from, and you leave that accountability to whoever you have given it. Once you have given it, the accountability lies with the place you have given it to. You're no longer saying, oh, have they spent the money the right way? Where have they spent the money? No. So tithing was something that really changed my perspective. And when I started tithing, like how I mentioned earlier, I saw the Lord unlock a lot of doors. And even if those doors were not financial, it gave me a lot of peace of mind. It gave me comfort when I needed it the most. And the Lord has stayed very true to his promise in Malachi. The Lord will never be in our debt forever. We are in the debt of the Lord. And as stewards, we need to ensure that whatever we do it to the best of our abilities.
Wow, that's brilliant, Gavin.
Yeah,
What about you,
I would continue with Malachi. So I'll just read it out because it's such a powerful verse. Malachi 3:10. If your viewers can write it down, the second verse you can write it down. Because why is it so important? Because like I mentioned, this is the only verse where God says, "Test me." So it says, "Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that they may be food for my house." And the Lord goes on to say, "Test me in this," says the Lord Almighty, "if I will not open the windows of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will be no room enough to store it." So, if you're faithful, God says, "Test me in this." So, for me, what happened is one incident in my life when I was, when I went to do my MBA. At that time, I won one award, okay, and there was a prize money for it. And when I got that prize money, I was, first time I got money, and I decided, what, I will give it for charity. Not tithe, but I give it for charity. So there was this thing which was there where you can give it money for some children's education. So I didn't want to do it, but I did it anyway because, this is what our religion teaches us. And, it literally, I cried, because, I worked so hard for this and I literally, a tear was there. So, but then I gave it, and then nothing happened. Life moved on. But 1 year later, okay, there was this other, so in the first year when I won this award, and then 1 year later in the second year, there was this other award which had a bigger prize money and was for the best all-round student, So, and they had an interview for this one. So during the interview, they asked me, "Have you ever given anything for something like children's education or anything?" And then I remembered that, so I told them that, and then I won that award. So it's not that we give tithe so that I can keep winning.
Correct.
But what I learned from that is that God says, "Test me in this." And the second thing is that, seek first the kingdom of God and everything else will be added unto you. So if you merge these two verses, that is something that really touched my life and said that, if I am faithful with my money, my heart is not on getting more through tithe, but my heart is truly set on God. If I truly seek first the kingdom of God and I can give money and I can give my tithe and my charity, God will 110% be faithful. He's saying, "Test me and I will open up the storehouse and pour so much that you cannot, contain it." So that is something that really changed my life. And I saw that, in the start, it was like I just gave the money, but then God was faithful. And that faithfulness that He showed me has changed me throughout my life. And even though sometimes when you earn a lot of money and then you have to give a huge amount because earlier we were earning less and now you're earning more. And then the amount that you're giving now is, my salary earlier. And it's like, oh my God, why am I giving so much? But at that time, you have to be faithful and give it to the place where you're getting spiritual growth, just like Gavin said.
If you have one thing that you would tell anyone who's watching, about money before the age of 25, what would you tell them?
So what I would tell if I was talking to my 25-year-old self, right, is, or to anyone who's 25, is we work so hard, right? Right from the, I was talking recently, just some time back to you, and from the age of 6 itself, we're studying so much, right? And we start studying at a very young age, and we work so hard for 20, 25 years to get the degree, and finally we get a job. But then we get money, but we don't know what to do with that money, right? And what we do like those products which we talk. We take these kind of products which actually give us 7%. And we work so hard to earn that salary. And then you can see in the long run, we've lost 1 crore, right? Just because we took some policy which is not good. So one advice which I would give to any 25-year-old is, learn about finance, learn the principles of, because you're learning only how to make money. You're not learning what to do after that. So it is not only to make more money. You don't learn it. You don't have to learn it with the thought of making more money. You have to learn it with the thought that this is like Luke 16:11, right? This is so that I can achieve heaven, because I have to be prudent with my money, right? And so that is one thing that I feel every 25-year-old, you learn as much as possible. Okay, study is very important, but also what to do after that is also equally important.
Yeah, that's so true. What about you, Gavin?
I would suggest to a person, you start early, because a lot of people today have a lot of dreams, of travel with globalization. People have a lot of dreams of going here, going there, achieving this, achieving that. And if you're able to start early, I feel you're able to build a bigger corpus. I feel if you're able to build a corpus, you're able to do better things in life. And I'm just not talking from the perspective of oneself. I'm talking from the perspective of being able to give. I would tell somebody, you just don't look at an SIP which is a systematic investment plan, you look at something very interesting which I saw online. It says social investment plan. So you look at also giving back. So if you start early and you're able to save, you're also able to give. So I feel I would really focus, on that giving element, because that giving element is also something which is a very strong part of being a steward. It's we use our money to make things better for the others, right? So the Lord himself says like he blesses us, and we should also be a blessing to others. So that's something, that's always my perspective, that can you give? If you start early, you'll be able to give also earlier, because the world is imbalanced and we require young people to help balance the world out.
Man, it was really good to talk to you all. Do you all have any kind of social handles, your company, if you'd like to, use this time to just get, you guys, what you guys are doing, maybe like a social handle, website name, whatever. I'll just let you talk about yourself, and maybe you can talk about like where people can get in touch with you guys, because you guys do this as professionally. So I'll just leave this up to you if you want to talk about.
So I have a company called Mascarenhas Wealth. So we are mutual fund distributors. So what we do is we help in investing, right? So to give you a brief about what I do, so I'm a CFA charter holder. So what is a CFA charter holder? So like how CA is for tax, right? So same way CFA is for investing. So I've done this CFA, I've done CFP and CWM. These are basically designations for CFPs for financial planning, and CWM is for HNI clients. So I say this whenever I talk to a client. I'm the only CFA charter holder currently in Goa who's a mutual fund distributor, and the only one who is a triple designated mutual fund distributor. So that is a brief about me. So if anyone wants a help in helping the financial planning, basically doing this entire thing, what we discussed, that is where I can step in and help you.
Okay. Do you have a website that people can go to, like Instagram? Like, I don't know, Facebook? Whatever.
Yes. So I have a website. It's called mascarenhaswealth.com. And you can also go onto Instagram. And I have also a YouTube channel on Mascarenhas Wealth. Yes.
Nice. Maybe you can do like a collab sometimes.
Yes. So earlier I was in Bangalore, and I was working for JP Morgan. We would handle US clients. And then I moved to ICICI Wealth, where we handled Indian clients. And then these products were there, which didn't really, I would see the returns and I could not sell that to my clients. How could I make them lose 1 crore? Yeah. So that's when about 3.5 years back, I left that job in Bangalore and moved back to Goa. And that's when I started. So currently we have about 200 plus families where we help them in investing their money well.
Wow, that's brilliant. Thank you, Brendon. Okay, Gavin, do you want to talk about where people can find you, what you do, all of that?
Yes. So the name of my firm is Meridian Wealth. For the last decade, we have been mutual fund distributors. We also help our client in their insurance related requirements. Our key focus is in terms of their health, in terms of pure term plans, because that's what we find is best for our client. Personally, I've been into the area of finance for over 17 years. After I've done my MBA at Goa Institute of Management, I was a part of their executive MBA batches. And it's been a great pleasure, This industry is something which, when you see somebody achieving their goals, it gives you that level of satisfaction. You see somebody getting married because of the corpus you helped, somebody being able to put their down payment down for their home or buy the car. So it gives immense pleasure. So, God has always been good. We are managing over 800 clients. And we always thank God for the opportunities that He has given to our organization. We have an Instagram handle by the name of Meridian Goa, and that's where you can reach us.
Okay, thank you. Guys, it was an amazing time just sitting with y'all and talking about finance, about wealth, about stewardship, about investing, a lot of things we spoke about. And I really want to thank you for spending so much time with us talking about this, and I want to appreciate you all for all the work that you guys are doing, and for reaching out to families, reaching out to individuals to help them map their goals. And it was really a lot of things that I learned in this podcast I had no idea about. So I really want to thank you, really want to appreciate you guys, and hopefully we get to sit again and maybe go a little bit more depth on maybe different topics, maybe some topics that we already covered, and be a little bit more in depth in that. So I'm really looking forward to that. So thank you once again.
Thank you, Basil. It was amazing having you and being so patient.
Yes. So guys, if you like this content, if you like this video, I really would encourage you to go down in the comments below and type down your questions, any queries. We spoke about so many things, right? So if you want to just like ask a question, maybe we can do a follow-up video on that or something like that. So please go in the comments, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that bell notification so that you don't miss any of our videos. And until then, stay unapologetically Catholic.